What's up, peeps? Welcome to the Up and After podcast. Grab a mug. Let's have a talk.
What do you want? It's too early for visitors.
I then awake as refreshed and recharged as a newborn child, ready to take on the day's challenges.
Record.
All right, so today is a big day for me, and probably a big day for Riley too, because this is something new for him. But we just hopped into the Last of Us show, and we finished the last episode just not even maybe 15 minutes ago. So yeah, Riley, go ahead. You have any intros you want to throw out before we really dive into it?
Intros, I do. This episode of the Up and After Crashed is brought to you by Boylan Bottling Company and their hit grape soda.
This is not sponsored, but go ahead.
It's not sponsored at all. Other grape sodas are available, but how many are this refreshing?
I like how before we started, he's like, "I'm gonna get me some water," and then he's like, "No, I know what I'm gonna get. I didn't know this is what you were setting up for."
You gotta have a sponsor. Okay, so yeah, to set this up, we just got done watching The Last of Us, episode 9, the finale, which we're a bit late on. It came out last weekend.
Yeah.
Anyway,
not that late.
We didn't watch any other episode except the finale together. We watched the show completely separately up to this point, and agreed we would not talk about it with each other at all until the finale came out. And now the finale's out, and we just watched it together. And Chris is someone who has played the Last of Us games, and I effectively have not. I have such little experience that I basically
non-existent. Right.
So we're the complete opposite ends of the spectrum, and I think that's going to make it a lot more fun to tackle this.
Definitely.
In a fun way.
Yeah.
Be professional here while you continue your conversation. Talk to me about your Last of Us expectations going into this, or perhaps your thoughts on the game, whatever you want to do.
I have so many, I feel like I'm torn in so many different directions of, where I want to start and what I want to talk about. First and foremost, Last of Us, the video game, is one of my all-time favorite video games. It is my favorite video game. I have played part 2 also, so I assume, I don't know if they announced it yet, but I think they did, that they are doing a second season.
I think they announced that.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's going to follow part 2. But I played the first one, I don't know, 8 times on different difficulties. I played the multiplayer, DLC, all of that. I
forgot that game had multiplayer. Holy fuck.
And it's really good. I was really involved into it. I played a lot of it. It's really fun. So I would like to say I have extensive knowledge on Last of Us. I even watched a 3-hour documentary. Not even documentary. I guess it's more like a dissection video on this guy just talking about it and his experience with it. And I just took so much from that video and was like, man, I love this game even more. So I would say I'm well versed in it. But I haven't played the original in quite some time. But I did restart another playthrough with this show being out just so I can freshen up a little bit. I didn't finish it, so I still might be cloudy here and there. Still a good game. Still love everything about it. But
fair.
Yeah. As for my expectations for the show, when it was first announced, I was like, this is cool, but why do we need this? But I think I had to remove the fact that I am a gamer. I play the games or whatever, and I had to think of it from a person who never plays games, right? And I still want them to experience the show or experience the story more so and the characters. So I had to, once I removed that, I was like, nah, never mind. This has a place, for some people, for everyone. So yeah, that was kind of my expectations going into it. I came into it pretty open-minded. I was like, I hope they do newer stuff with characters and explore things a little bit more. And going with that attitude, I can say now that we ended it, I think I got, what I wanted for the most part. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
That was extensive.
That was extensive. I could keep going. Anyway, we will, but
I'm sure you can. Yeah. Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah. No. I mean, I went into this expecting. Here's the thing: is that The Last of Us is already. I don't remember what quote it was or whatever, but I know the basic consensus is that The Last of Us as a game was already basically made to emulate kind of what prestige television is.
Yup.
And so turning it back into that medium isn't that difficult. And so,
yeah,
I mean, I don't want to say not that difficult because that kind of undercuts the amount of work that went into it.
Right.
But it's certainly a lot easier of an adaptation than other things.
Yeah. It's funny watching it and playing the games very extensively because there's literally, and when I say literally, like verbatim 1-for-1 shots from the show to the game, and I'm like, it's really cool to see though. Like it's like, wow, they genuinely like just took this and was like, yeah, let's just actually shoot it with real people. Like, I don't know, like especially when the game is also mocap, so there's also actors acting it out. And I don't know, it was just cool to see. Like, I was expecting, I guess, them to like really change up a lot of like visuals and the way it looks and stuff like that. But nope, it's very similar, which is good. Like I said, for people who's new to it, because you're getting the same, at least, vibe and experience from the cinematography and from the actors. So, and the world.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But you also get to expand on it in certain places.
Mm-hmm.
And from my limited understanding, I know that people really seem to like the parts that were expanded on.
Yep.
Parts that weren't even like really that much of a thing in the game.
Yep. There's, oh man, we'll get to it because I think the way I want this to be structured is we just probably just go by episode.
Sure.
And I think I'll if you're okay, once again, this is going to be spoilers for the show and the game. So if you want to,
if you want to spoil the game, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna play the game when it comes out on Steam, but you don't feel the need to not spoil anything because I don't care.
Okay, cool. And like I said, like the show literally is the game. There's some things that are taken out, and so
it's very limited stuff, I imagine.
Yeah,
because all I've been seeing is people gushing about how exact things are, and it makes sense considering that they brought the creator of the game on board to help make this. So.
I recently watched a video. This is a little sidebar, but I watched a video about a guy reviewing all the Uncharted games, 1 through 4, and he was talking about like the fourth one, and he was talking about how the game director, I believe, ended up leaving, and they brought Neil Druckmann on, who is the director of The Last of Us. Mm-hmm. And he said he didn't like Uncharted 4 because it is like nothing but pure dialogue for the most part. Like it's a lot of dialogue and less gameplay. And I just thought it was funny because he was like, this is definitely a guy who feels like he should be in like cinema. Like he loves movies and stuff, and he just chose a different route and went gaming. Yeah, and I just thought it was funny because obviously the show. But yeah. That was a little sidebar, a little tangent. Anywho, you want to go ahead and jump into the first episode?
Let's do it, dog.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Naughty dog.
Yeah. Shut the. So the first episode is When You're Lost in the Darkness. I really love the titles for these for the most part, especially like the just because like the taglines are very much like in the games also. And When You're Lost in the Darkness comes from in the beginning of the game when there's like this like montage showing you like the infection and it growing over this span of time. There's a Firefly reading out like this like basically letter to the masses saying like, you know, this is what they've done to us, blah 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 blah. But at the end it says, when you're lost in darkness, look for the light. And it's just it's just all
I remember that being like a Firefly graffiti in the Boston QZ in the beginning. So I imagine that's like a Firefly thing.
It's cool because the first episode is when you're lost in the darkness, and the last episode is look for the light. So
yeah,
it's great. So I guess so. It starts off with Sarah and Joel. You're more so following Sarah through this episode than you are Joel until
I like that.
yeah. Oh yes, because just like the games, you start off playing Sarah, which is so weird because you're like, why am I playing like this little teenage girl? Like, where is this going? Especially when, at the time of it coming out in 2013, you're watching like these trailers of this game. You're like, oh, this looks kind of cool, whatever. You see this big hulking of a man, and you see this like teenage girl. So maybe your mind automatically, I know for me because I was younger, my mind automatically assumed that that was the same girl. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe time passes and she changed her hair color or whatever. But that's about it. She's like this little blonde girl. So I'm glad they kept that experience of like following this teenage girl type of thing. But yeah, I just thought that was cool. But yeah, you follow them, you follow Sarah, and you kind of just go throughout her day and see basically the start of the apocalypse in the background until it hits them.
It's so well done, especially because they don't even like reveal everything in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember talking about it with my brother who'd just watched it, and we were in real time talking about like the theories of like, oh man, like there's like the stuff with the biscuits, and then there's stuff with like, oh man, we couldn't bring home the cake. And the stuff like, oh, we don't have the stuff to make the pancakes in the morning. It's like, there's something here. There's definitely something here.
I don't remember because it's been a minute since the first episode. I'm going to go back and rewatch it. But I think there's something about Joel and his job. It's something he says, and I'm like, bro, the hint, like, that sounds so crazy. I think he was just saying like some guy did something at my job, and then like it freaked everyone out or something like that, or he gets a call from his job or something like that. And I thought that was really cool, because they kind of do that in the game, but they don't lean into it too much because by the time it's happening, it's it's a game, so they want to get things started pretty quickly. But yeah, I thought the stuff with Sarah and her neighbor was really cool.
I was just about to say one of the parts I kind of like. There's a lot of parts in this show where I'm like, dude, I wish there are times where I wish Chris and I were watching this together. And one of those times was when she's like looking at something on the bookshelf and just out of focus in the back, you have that fucking grandma just like wigging out.
It's like, oh my god,
so creepy, dude.
Oh my god, it's so great because also the dog is in that scene, and the dog is just staring at this woman like, what the fuck is going on?
It really freaks you the fuck out. I was shook.
Yeah, and especially because
the entire thing.
Grandma's like out of focus too. She's not. You don't like really see her. You have to really be paying attention to her. But they make it a way that you are focused on her, but she's not in focus.
Because they hold on the shot where it's not happening for a while, and so you're looking at Sarah, but she's not really doing it. She's just like looking at stuff that you can't see off screen, and so your eyes start to wander around, and your eyes immediately go to the next thing that's like a big part of the framing.
Right.
And it's the out of focus grandma, and you're like, all right. And then the move starts when the show predicts your eyes are gonna be on her.
Right.
It's so good. It's so well done.
Yeah, it's great. I also, all this takes place in like the daytime. In the game, majority of this is happening like at night. I think there's a small time skip, like very short. It's like a few hours in the show, so it does happen in daytime, but it's like evening, like the sun is coming down, and by the time
the after kind of aesthetic they have.
Yeah,
the neighbor's house.
It's great. I like because that's not in the game at all. Like none of the neighbor shit, sort of like like Sarah doesn't go over to the neighbors. None of that happens. So I thought it was really cool, just that added effect. But yeah, I just love. Yeah, it's just really great to look at. In the game, Sarah wakes up and Joel is not home. Kind of like in the show, he's not home, but he drops her off to be watched or whatever. So you're like walking around your house and Sarah's like, Dad, where are you? You go downstairs. You read like the refrigerator. There's a refrigerator note saying that Joel's like going out. He's going to get like some stuff for the night. Something happened. The phone, but he left his phone. So you check the text messages, and his brother Tommy being like, "Yo, Joel, where the fuck are you? Like, where you been?" Et cetera, et cetera. So she's like, what the hell is going on? And then you turn around and you walk into like this, like Joel has like this office space. And as soon as you go in there, a zombie. Oh no, Joel busts into his like it's a sliding room door that leads to the outside. So his office connected to like a porch almost. So he comes in and he's like Sarah, get like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, like what the hell is going on, Dad? And then he's like back up, get away from like the windows or whatever. And she's like, but like what's going on? He's like, the neighbors, I think they're like they're crazy, like they're going crazy. She's like, okay. And then the neighbor busts through the glass window or whatever, and it's a zombie, and then Joel shoots it. And then she's like what? Like, so Sarah's like, okay, what is going on? So then Tommy pulls up, and then you guys get in the car, and then you guys head out. So like, yeah, it's very much different, but I do like it because it's just a slow burn also, because you're not directly just walking downstairs. You have to like walk through these bedrooms and stuff to check out. You're watching the news at some point, and the news is showing you what's going on, and it's so cool. Like, while you're watching the news, it like the news reporter is like by like, I don't know what, like a gas station or something, and it blows up in the TV. But if you look outside, like at the same time, you can see the explosion happen, and it's all like real time. So like it's not a cutscene, so you can literally like turn and look at it, or you can just stare at the TV. It's just so cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah. But yeah. Anywho, this is where it becomes like a 1-for-1 from the games to the show, where they're driving through like Texas, and you're seeing like the signs, and then you see the burning house. Like all of that is a 1-for-1 shot for the games. And once again, I think this is really dope for the world building, because they don't explicitly say they're in Texas, but you just have to like look at the signs, look where they're living. It's like a very rural area. And they have to like drive into town.
Just tell you.
Yeah, I think in the show, yeah, they just tell you. But in the game, you do not know. You just see the signs. You're like, oh, okay, it looks like they're in like Texas, because I think they have like, the little Texas map, but it's very small. You're not. I mean, unless you're really looking at it, you're probably not paying attention. You're just kind of like, oh shit, what the fuck is going on? Also, you can because you're still playing Sarah at this point, you're like looking around in the car, so you can actually like move Sarah around in the car. She can look all around her.
And I love how they adapted that into just being a long take in the show.
Yes.
That was so fucking brilliant.
Yes. It's so good. Even the scene of like,
even with no kind of experience having played that, I could feel like, oh man, this is probably exactly how it feels like, just like having a camera where you're just pointing around wherever like the thing is happening at any one time.
Yeah.
So good.
I love it, dude. I think once they get into town, so you're starting to see like the outbreak, and like it's very chaotic. It's chaotic in the game and in the show. In the show, I'm a little fuzzy on how it happens, but I think does like a plane crash and the materials hit the car and flip it over?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do a cut to black sometime around when the plane crashes. Yeah. If I remember.
So the plane does crash. In the show, you just get like it's like pretty generic, but a truck like hits, like T-bones them.
Yeah, and they're teased as if that's about to happen. Yeah. In the show, but it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, yeah, let's take it a step up.
Let's say a plane crashes. Joel has the worst luck. Fucking plane. Yeah, so Sarah's hurt in the game, and then she's hurt in the show also. So this is the part where you take over for Joel, and you're just carrying Sarah throughout the town while shit is going down.
Interesting.
Yeah. Trying to see. Sorry, I'm just trying to compare both of them in my head. But yeah, I mean, it's like the big scene. But yeah, Tommy and Joel end up splitting up because Tommy's in the car with them, but zombies are chasing them, or the infected is chasing them, and Tommy stays back while Joel and Sarah go ahead because Sarah's hurt, so Joel's carrying her. So Tommy's just like, dude, go ahead. And any other time, any other movie, you're like, Tommy's dead, bro. Whenever a person says he's staying behind, just call it a loss. It's over with. So Joel goes up ahead. He leaves Tommy behind. And this is where they can run into the military guy. And he's like, basically, he's protecting the perimeter so no one gets out or in. And he talks on his little walkie, and he basically talks to his higher up, and they tell him to kill Joel and Sarah. So this is a slight difference from the game that I think I wish they would have kept, but it's not too big to really mean anything. All this still happens. So basically, in the show, he talks to the guy, and then Joel's like, "Listen, like my daughter's hurt. Like it's not an infection. Like she's just." She just got into an accident, and the guy ends up shooting in the show just off rip. He like holds up his gun, and then Joel's like, "What the fuck?" He tries to run, and he gets shot, and then Sarah also gets shot. In the game, it's the same thing. He talks on the intercom, but there's a voice like you don't hear it, but then he goes, "But sir, there's a child," and then I don't know what it said, and then he's like okay, well I guess I have to kill them or whatever. I think that small little detail is important because it shows the humanity a little bit. I just like that. I love the like, sir, there's a child, but in the show he's just kind of like, okay, well I'm just gonna kill you guys, like whatever.
Doesn't he say he's sorry? Like, I'm sorry about this.
See, I don't
inflection.
I don't think so, but you could be right.
Did.
I just don't remember. It's been a while, so maybe. But yeah, I just like the sorry. There's a child, but that's just me nitpicking. Everything still happens the same, and I still like the scene. I think it's very effective. Pedro Pascal does a really great job at being Joel. Like, and not even just Pedro, but Bella Ramsey. Sorry, let me kind of.
The casting's great.
Yeah, the casting's just amazing. Storm Reed, Nick Offerman, Anna Torv. I think that I'm saying her name correctly. Like, everyone just does an amazing job. Like, recapturing these characters, and like it's just it was just so good to watch them. So but yeah, that's kind of how I guess the first half of the episode ends with that, and the rest is just 20 years later with Joel living his life now that his daughter has died, because she does die. But yeah, Riley, I feel like I'm talking a lot. you want to take it from here?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I thought never mind. Alright. So yeah, all the casting and the acting is great. And I think the opening scene is just a really well done piece of filmmaking. So moving into the rest of like the meat of the episode. One thing that's actually interesting, and I kind of mentioned when we were done with the episode, or before we started actually, is that they decided to put the first 2 episodes together into one, which is why it's a lot longer. And it's I think they said it was because it was just gonna be so depressing that they thought people might not want to come back, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
So they had to put more in to make it a lot more inviting for people to come back and watch.
Right. Which is funny in hindsight, because I only played the game because I've only saw that first scene right when Sarah dies, and I was like, no, I don't want to watch anymore. Like, I was like, I don't want to experience this anymore. I want to go play the game. So it's just funny that they went that route, because it was definitely the opposite for me.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they were actually going to end the episode with Joel like throwing the kid's body into the fire. That's where they were going to end the first episode.
Whoa, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I could kind of see where they're coming from, where they didn't want to do that.
Right. Also, we briefly went over it. I forgot to bring it up, but the beginning of the episode is a talk show. It's completely removed from the game.
Oh my god, dude! The cold opens of the first 2 episodes,
and oh my god,
I need to talk about those.
I want to talk about it, But I want to talk about it after we talk about the second episode's cold opening, because I wanted to talk about cold openings in general for the show.
Right.
But yeah, so it's just a talk show host, and they're just talking about cordyceps, and it's a scientist and just like, I guess, the host himself, and they're just going over what cordyceps is and like how it functions and whatever. But the guy's talking about like, if it was to ever mutate and go into humans, is the end of days, basically. And it's just the way that it's like shot, the way that it's edited and everything is just so creepy. Like,
it's so good because you're watching it and it's like, it's very much expository. Like, it's just kind of like setting up the exposition so you have more of an idea of what's going on when things go to shit. But it's done really well in that it feels like you're, watching the filming of like a daytime talk show. But then, as soon as like, well, what happens then? He's like, we lose. And just everything is so soft. And you can kind of hear like the murmuring in the crowd. And everyone's just like looking around. The talk show host is just like, he just like looks down and just like all the levity in the scene just is evaporated instantly. And he looks up and is like, be right back. I swear to God, I was like, I'm in. That was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. It's like, holy crap.
And I think it was even scarier. Like, what backs that scene up so much is the fact that cordyceps is an actual thing. Like, it's a real thing. The creators of the game did a lot of research on it, and it is a actual like fungal disease, I guess you want to call it, in ants. And I think they bring that up in the show. And you probably heard it,
zombie ants thing.
Yeah. And if you've watched the show by now, people have talked about it. But so I'm not gonna go too much into it. But it's just scary that it actually can exist. And once again, if something was like,
if some freak mutation happened,
we're fucked.
The end times.
Yeah. So great cold
it's
opening.
Really scary. And it's so effective.
And it's one of those things, once again, that is not part of the game at all. Nothing referenced to no talk show. It's just, hey, let's create something and let's go for broke.
But I feel like you can really feel the mind of the creator coming through there. Like, I could feel like that was something that if the creator could do that in the game in a really natural way, they would have wanted to.
Yeah.
It just feels really, it's so good. Such a good opening. And the second one is also amazing.
Oh my God,
and I was so hoping that they would be doing that every episode. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed when they didn't.
God damn it, Riley!
But
I said after the second episode when we talk about it. No. I felt the same exact way.
But I mean, that's just a testament to how well done the first two were.
Yeah, I was hoping they would do it every episode because that would make me even more on the side of like, okay, this is why we need this, because it gives context to the world, right? Especially with the second episode. We'll like kind of go over it pretty briefly. But in the second episode, like, they talk about like the bombing in the cold opening, and then it's brought back in the episode itself when it's just a crater, and then like the characters just gently kind of go over it, and it's just so cool because they might breeze over it, but us as the audience had like a whole scene dedicated to like connecting these two. And it's just really great world building, and I just love that. And that's kind of what I wanted from the show. It's just more world building.
And I mean, that's kind of an extension to what I was going to talk about next regarding the rest of this like pilot episode. Is that God help this show if it didn't go to HBO, because you can't do a show like this in terms of set design and costuming and CGI if you're not at HBO. They're the only place you can go to get this level of quality in your show.
And that's why
I can only imagine, like, what if this was like a CW show?
Oh my God, Riley, get the freak out of my head, bro. Literally, I said when they announced that Last of Us is going to be coming a show, I said in my head, like, I hope it's not CW. I don't know why. I don't know why I would think it was there.
It would never be CW.
It would never be. But there's a slim chance in some other parallel universe with Doctor Strange being alive that they got a CW version of The Last of Us, and I feel sorry for those those guys. But
I kind of want to see it. That's more of a morbid curiosity.
maybe the Flash movie will set that into. Not you shake. I saw the slight shake in the head. But yeah. I once they said that it was coming to HBO, because I thought it was gonna be Netflix, and I was gonna be a little skeptic if it was Netflix. I was gonna be a lot more skeptic actually. Sorry. But once they said that it was coming to HBO, I was like, oh, it's a shoe-in. It's gonna be a good show. Even if I don't like it, I think that there's gonna be a lot of stuff there that I will. So
Like
But yeah.
Netflix, I could see them doing some stuff. Like I'm imagining stuff you see in Stranger Things, like stuff in the Upside Down Stranger Things. They have
Yeah.
like that fungal kind of thing going on.
right.
The problem is, I don't think Netflix could do like the post-apocalyptic city
Yeah.
kind of thing
Yeah.
that HBO can do, which is a combination of like set and like CGI that's just done so well.
So well.
It's so believable. It's like, wow, it's like I've never been to Boston, but it's like I'm really there
and
in the post-apocalypse.
it's a game like comparing the two, Riley, like is literally one for one. The way that it looks in the show is exactly how it looks in the game, and I'm just like, what? How did they do this? Where did they create this at? But once again, like you said, is because they bring on the director and like, especially like a lot more people who's involved with it in terms of like characters too. Like they bring on all these people, so it's like once again, it's just like, oh, this is easy because we've already done this, so let's just do it again. So
Right.
yeah.
So I don't have that much more to talk about for the first episode.
No, you
just
get
because the
introduced
meat
to
of it
Tess.
is you get like the introduction of Tess and Marlene and not Bella, Ellie.
Bale. Yeah.
And I don't really need to go over them again because I just said, just as a blanket, the casting and acting is all great. So
Yep.
that's all I got to say about that. But yeah, man, just the and I think it does a good job of giving an audience an insight into the whole Fedra Firelight thing without beating you over the head with any exposition. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it. I'm still like, okay, I get it. This is the whole like
The
government and freedom fighter / terrorist thing. And
Star
there's
Wars.
bad people on both sides. Like I immediately was like, all right, cool, I get this.
You have the Order, you have the Resistance. Right? Something like that.
I mean,
How's that work? Who's before? Listen, I don't know Star Wars. Listen, that's why we're gonna watch
Alright.
it. But yeah,
fair.
yeah. I'm glad that you felt like it wasn't being over the head because I was like, I wonder how are people gonna understand it, like what Fedra is and versus like the Fireflies.
No, they did a great job.
Yeah, that's one thing that's a little bit different in the games because Fedra doesn't like they have a presence, but it's not really big in the game. It's probably a lot bigger in the show, I feel like. Especially later on when we get to later episodes and you hear more about Fedra and everything. Once again, really great world building. But in terms of like the game, it's kind of like, oh, this is cool. This is something they could dive into more, and once again, they do in the show. So I'm very happy about that.
True.
Yeah. You get a lot of like, obviously this is game shit, but you get a lot of like picking up notes and stuff and reading people talking about like Fedra or talking about like what they're doing or what they're like people waiting on people, and but those people not showing up. Like it's very cool. So that's where you get your your world building is through these notes and people
Yeah.
accounts, and obviously
That's something that I would when I do play the game. That's something I'm gonna be like. I can't leave an area until I've gotten every piece
do.
of story.
Please do.
I must read every audio log.
It's very important that you do. So yeah, I think the one thing you should take from the first episode is Marlene's a Firefly. They run into Joel and Tess, and she gives them Ellie to basically smuggle across the fucking country. That's kind of how the first episode ends.
Yeah.
So
Well, you also have the whole they bring back around, Joel fucking being willing to kill people to protect,
yes,
someone.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of the through line of the show that we get all the way until the last episode. where he goes to more and more extreme measures to protect, to try and get a second chance at protecting someone.
Yeah,
That's what I get out of it, but anyway.
Yeah, I'll talk about it, like, kind of when we end the episode, like, how the Joels are a little bit different.
Fair.
But, yeah. So, the second episode, once again, we talked about the cold opening, but it is something that's very removed from the game and kind of removed from the show, obviously, but it's still world building. And it just picks up with this, I don't know what she is?
Scientist.
Yes, but, like,
She's like a fungal scientist.
Okay.
Epidemiologist, right?
Yes, and
Is that an epidemiologist?
yeah, and it's in a different country also.
It's in Indonesia,
Indonesia,
I think, right?
Yeah.
In
Which is cool.
Malaysia.
I'm glad they did that. That's so fucking cool. That is happening somewhere else. But
My God, dude, that fucking that cold open. I was like,
it's pretty long too, isn't it? It's like
Jakarta too. Yeah, that was it. It feels like it's upwards of 10 minutes. It's probably not that long, but I loved it because as soon as it starts, you get the subtitle telling you like you're in Jakarta, and you're like, holy fuck, because you remember back to the last episode where they said, hey, like what they're saying all this weird stuff's happening in Jakarta. Where is that? And it's like, this is gonna be some crazy shit, and it's not nearly as explosive as you think.
Mm-hmm.
But it is chilling. It's just as, if not more, chilling than the first episode.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, oh my God, so basically you're following this woman, this scientist, and she's eating at this restaurant, and she's just kind of like going throughout her day, and then this military guy shows up, and it's so scary because like there's not really words exchanged. He's just kind of like comes in, he's kind of like, I'm looking for someone. Like, he finds her, and he's just like, come with me, type of thing. But, like, there's not a lot of dialogue going on. So you're like, oh, man, this is getting, like, really scary. So then finally they exchange dialogue in the the car, right? And he kind of tells her, like, why they need her.
So,
yeah.
The further we go back in the episodes, the more foggy my memory.
Yeah, same. But, yeah, basically, I think he catches her up to speed, like, there's, like, we kind of need you because something has like happened and we need your like scientific input on it. So they end up taking her to like, this lab or whatever, and they have this body on the table. Once again, I fucking just loved like the makeup and the CGI, whatever. But she goes in and she's like checking this. She got a full hazmat suit on. She's checking this body. And she's like this is some weird markings. Like, where did you say this person came from? Like, what happened? They kind of explain to her like this person was like at their job, and then they ended up getting attacked or something. So she's like, okay, and she like opens the mouth, and like this fungus, like just it's like it just comes out the mouth. It's just so disgusting. And it's one thing
they really get the parallels of it, like acting like a hand like reaching out and trying to grab onto whatever it can.
And that's not in the game. Right, like that the whole fungus in the mouth thing is not in the games, but I think that's because that kind of replaces the spores, because spores are in the game and they don't have that in the show. But I think it's because
the said like if they were to do spores, then like humanity would just be so fucked beyond all recognition.
That, and they also said
they wanted to make it a bit more.
If they had masks on, it would be hard to hear the audio, like the dialogue. And I was like, that makes perfect sense. So yeah, they took the spores out, but I like the replacement of like these fungal mouth shit or whatever. It just looks disgusting.
And they developed the shit out of it. Like they actually like really get granular on this stuff.
It's fucking
It's
cool.
not like if they replace it and just kind of hand wave it away like, it works because it works. Now they like really go into detail about this kind of thing.
Yep. So she's ends up backing up from the table, and then
she fucking books it.
Yeah, she fucking leaves. She takes her hazmat suit off, and she's like, "I'm out." So the guy's like, "Whoa, hold on! Like, where are you going? Like, what we dealing with here? Like, what do we have to do?" So she tells them about the whole fungus and like how it works, how it operates, and he's like, okay, like once again, it's a parallel with the first cold opening of like, what do we do, or like what happens next, and she just goes, bomb everything, like. Go home, get your kids, tell them you love them, and fucking bomb everything. That's it.
Before she did that though, she's like asking questions like, so you said she was bitten, And he said, how many more people did they say? Like maybe 20 more people, were bitten like this. And it's like, and where have you accounted for them? And it's like, no, we haven't accounted for most of them. And her reaction to that was just it was just despair.
But wasn't it? But I thought like, didn't they kill majority of them? But they like
Maybe.
they didn't get one person. I think that's the part
They
that's.
said there were several people unaccounted for.
Oh yeah, nah, that's fucking scary, dude. I was like,
And
yeah.
I love, it's such a scary idea because she's like, you're gonna have to bomb this entire city if you want to contain this, like now, and she's even like, you can't even risk going home and taking people you care about and trying to leave because you just be risk spreading this thing. You need to just be willing to bomb this entire city with everyone in it, innocent or otherwise.
She literally was like, yeah, just call it take the L. She's like, yeah, it's done. And then that's like kind of how it ends. That's literally like the end of the cold opening. It's just you seeing on the fact that they probably bombed. I don't know what they did,
But they didn't do it quick enough. Yeah,
No,
they
no.
because, and that's great when like you said, when they bring back in their Boston, it's like, yeah, that's where they dropped the bomb here, trying to do what they could. And it's just obvious, like, not only did they probably do this on every large city in the world, but it was pointless because by that point the infection had already spread worldwide.
Yeah, and oh god, I
They
love.
they made the hard choice to bomb innocent people after it was already something that might have saved the world.
Right. It's just like, oh man, yeah, it's just great world building. And after this cold opening, you don't really get any more of those typical openings. And that just really sucked. Like, as a person who is a very fan of the game, and like, I was just looking for more of that type of shit. Like, just more world building outside of these characters and this story. Like, just show me the world without, or with, actually, show me the world with just throwing it in my face. Be like, this is it. This is what happened. You know what I mean? I would like maybe different accounts. Maybe even have the characters involved like slightly. Maybe if you do like future code openings, just have it like maybe it's like a family or something else. I don't know, like, creatively.
Just yeah, I mean that's what I was, yeah, just like a random family and what their last day of their the day of the outbreak,
exactly
what happened to them.
Yeah, I would just like multiple accounts of the first time, like the first day. That would have been because you get to see Joel's first interaction, so it's just kind of like
Yeah, you could even do it with like what was Marlene's first day of the outbreak, or Tess, or
like maybe like the first creation of Fedra, like how that starts, or something like that. That would have been really cool. But yeah, you don't see that anymore, and I'm interested to see why they didn't. Like maybe they just felt like maybe you just want to put the characters and the story more forward than this like exposition stuff.
Yeah,
I
can kind of see why, because you already have 2 episodes that are like mostly kind of flashback already, right? And if you do a lot more of that kind of stuff, then people might be like, I'm watching this show to see Joel and Ellie try and survive the apocalypse and watch their relationship grow. I think I don't want them to spend too much time on flashbacks that, they're not relevant. They're cool. They're good. Everything's good, but if it's not immediately relevant.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I would argue, because I like the connection between like what is happening in the story and the connection with that and the cold opening, that it kind of matters a little bit. But yeah, I understand if they want to just focus on Joel and Ellie and their relationship. But yeah, the second episode is basically Tess and Joel taking Ellie to this Capitol building to drop her off with the Fireflies. They aren't successful. Just that doesn't happen. But
Shocker.
yeah. Oh my god. So,
dude,
sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I remember there was one point in this episode where Joel like fucking goes up. He's like, "Let me try and find a way around and open it from the other side." And I'm just like, this is a fucking game thing, especially when like he comes back around and then they go through and then like the way like debris falls the way they came and like that is such a game thing. Like oh fuck, you can't go back the way you came.
Yep. Oh, one thing so in this episode, there's a couple little things I love. I love the Joel and Ellie jargon talk. I don't know why am I losing my brain, like chit chat dynamic. Thank you. But also not just Joel and Ellie. I love Joel and Tess and just all these three playing off each other very well, very much akin to the games. Also, there's a line at the beginning of the episode where Ellie wakes up. You know, they're like staring at her like with guns and shit. Cause wait, is this? Yeah, this beginning. So we didn't bring this up, but in the first episode at the end, you find out that Ellie is infected, but she's not turning into the infected, so she's basically a walking like.
The Walking Dead.
Shut the. Yeah, and then Negan shows up and puts a bat to Ellie's head. So yeah, you find out that she's infected, but she's not changing. So there's something there that they want to do with her. So in the beginning of this episode, episode 2, Joel and Tess are just staring at Ellie as she wakes up, and they just have like guns pointed to her, like, "Yo, if you was to change, that'd been your last day." So that's pretty cool. But then Ellie's like, you know, I gotta go use the bathroom. So they're like, Tess is like, the bathroom's over there. So Ellie walks over there. She's like, there's nothing bad back here, right? And then Joel goes, nothing but you. And I just love that interaction. It's like a small interaction. And Ellie's like, haha, funny. Like, and it's just very much akin to the games and like how they play off each other. Like, and Joel is very much dismissive of Ellie and very much like, you are nothing but cargo. Like, no attachments. Yeah. So. Yeah.
I want to move to the action set piece.
Yes, please, because 1 for 1 game.
Woof. 1 for 1. Yeah. I could feel it. It was well done, and oh my god, my favorite part. I'm pretty sure most people's favorite part.
Let me see if it's the part I'm thinking in my head.
I'm sure it is. It's where he's like
reloading the gun.
He's reloading the gun. Yes. And the camera pans away, and I'm like, no, don't pan the camera away, please. And then he pans back. I thought that thing was gonna be so much closer than it was. I thought it was gonna be like right up in the.
It's scary because like Joel is like holding. I don't know if he's in his mouth or like on his chin. He's holding the flashlight and he's like reloading, but he's not trying to make too much sound. And like as he reloads,
I'm like, don't drop those fucking shells. Exactly.
I'm like, if you drop these shells, you're fucked. And he takes the light and he flashes it in the clicker's eyes or face. You know, doesn't really have eyes. Like flashes it in his face, and it's like, oh my god, if the little kid in me was like could see that, I would have been fucking terrified. It was creepy to me then, but the little kid in me would be like, no, I can't watch this show because like. Oh my god, they did so well. I'm assuming is practical. Like they probably actually built a head for it. I don't know because I don't think they've released anything on it. But it might be a mix between both.
I can't tell. I'm not observant enough.
It looks good. Yeah, it looks phenomenal. And I was just like, bro, this is phenomenal. This is all I wanted to see. But yeah, that. Great action scene, just so scary, so intense. Yeah. Sorry. You want to go into it more, or?
Nah, man, that's the fucking highlight, and I mean that to the end of the episode, basically. The only other thing, like, I don't want to go like too nitty-gritty into every little thing, but the one other really notable thing I love is again with that kind of building the rules behind all this, and I love when they do the above shot where they're looking down into like the courtyard area, and it's just all the fucking infected dudes on the ground.
Yep.
And the sun comes over them, and they like roll to like face the sun, and I'm like, that is both really cool and really terrifying.
One thing they added in the show that's not in the game that's really scary to think about is Tess brings up the idea that like once you kind of mess with one infected, you basically have scattered the swarm. Like you alerted them. Yeah, this hive, and that shit is fucking scary because that's not in the games. It's just kind of like they're infected all over the place, and they just kind of
like you step on something. and just like in a 3-mile radius, everyone's coming towards you.
And it just, they obviously do that, and it's just, oh my god, it's so creepy. And I'm just like, oh, this is what I wanted. But yeah, so they end up going to the Capitol building, and you know, the guys that were there are dead. They've been dead for, it's kind of freshly dead, but enough time has passed where it's probably like a day or so. So Tess is like, bro, Joel, you gotta take this girl. You gotta take it. This is gonna be, she is our out. This is, you know, Joel is like, why? Like, why are you so pressed? Why are you? We can just literally chalk it up as a loss and go home. And she's like, bro, I can't go home. There is no home for me. There's never been home. And then she shows her wound and she's bitten. This scene is different from the games in a sense of, so what transpires after she tells him and everything is very much different. So in the game, after she tells him, these group of like hunters show up, and she's like you guys need to leave because you can't stay here. So you like leave her and you go up, like you have to like go around this building. Like it's kind of weird. So you have to go upstairs and around, but it's like blocked off, so you don't really see what's going on. You just hear these guys coming in, and you can hear them like, there's one in there, there's one in there. So if you're really fast enough, you can like come back out on the balcony of this area, and you see Tess gets, like, she's trying to fight them off, and she dies, and she's like on the ground or whatever, and they're like, all right, I think there's some more in here, and then these guys are just like all like spreading out trying to go find who you are. I think I like the show a little bit more because it's the Infected, and it's just a lot more scary. The show has a
definite dramatic flair to it. But...
yeah, exactly. It's a lot more dramatic. It's just. I just want to show
a dramatic flare up.
Is this what the rest of the episode is gonna be? But yeah, they also kind of dive into Tess's and Joel's background just a tad bit. Once again, it's like with dialogue where Tess is like, I think there's enough here for you to, like, you know, like there's enough here. She says here, and she like points to her and him. So that kind of gives this. Like, maybe they are somewhat romantically involved, but you don't really know. They don't really dive into it. But I kind of like that subtlety a little bit. And they do that in the games also. But I think they just do a little bit better in the show. And I think that's really cool. But yeah, Joel ends up, you know, he ends up taking her. And Tess ends up kind of holding back zombies. She, like, as the zombies are all charging them, or at least her, she, like, takes out a grenade. And she's gonna like basically blow everybody up and herself. But then there's this zombie, like, or this infected, like, stops and like looks at her, and like he doesn't charge her or anything. He just kind of like walks up to her, and he fucking like kisses her. But remember the fungus that I was talking about? Yeah, he still has that, and it's in her mouth now, and it's just. What the fuck was Neil Druckmann on? Because I liked it, but I was like, bro, this is what is going on? My mind was just, why would they do this? And it's just so creepy. It's so disgusting. And then she ends up blowing up everything. But boy, that was a scene and a half, especially because it's all new for me. And I was just like, I don't know.
I'm kind of glad that she died in the second episode. Not that I'm like, oh man, I'm happy she's dead, but like, I know this is called The Last of Us. I know, you know, in the opening, it's the two of them at the end of the opening. Yep. I didn't want them to drag out, like, I know she's gonna die at some point. Like,
yeah,
I don't want it to be like, oh, it's the fourth episode in and she's still around here. I know she's gonna be dead at some point.
Yeah, she dies pretty early in the game too, so it's.
So yeah, for the dramatic effect of the story, it's probably for the best.
Yep. So then we have episode 3. This is completely different from the game. All of this that's happening is completely different.
Yeah, I can talk here. So
yeah, go ahead.
Remember when we were talking about Arcane, right?
All right. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. So hot take. Probably not a hot take, but my take that I share is that episode 3 is the best episode of the show.
Wow, that is a hot take.
Hot take that is.
I don't know. People really love that episode.
Fucking lauded, and for good reason.
Yeah.
Legitimately, I've watched that episode 3 times.
Uh-huh.
It's just so like as a contained piece of media, like it's so fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fucking perfect, and I love it in every way. And it's just this amazing little self-contained story in this larger narrative, and it's amazing. And I will fight anyone who says that it was a waste of time and it's irrelevant, because it's so informative to Joel's character moving forward, especially with how the rest of the show plays out.
Yes, yeah.
I'm a fight people.
Yeah,
It's so good.
It's
love
such
a good episode.
That you said that. I was waiting to talk about this episode because it's so vastly different from the game. And what's so funny is in the game, it's the same thing. Like, you meet this character and it is very much a almost like dichotomy, or like maybe a self-reflection of who Joel is. And in the show, it's the same thing. It's just done differently. So I think we should talk about the episode. I think you should since you really like this episode, you should take the helms on this one. Talk about the episode, and I'll talk about the game, and then we'll discuss like kind of what's going on. I guess the difference between the two. But
yeah, I probably won't get as like into the details, but like, I mean, for one thing, this episode, when I turned it on, and it went right into the opening, I was like, no, because as I said, I really wanted there to be a cold open. Little did I know, we didn't need one for this one. And they also
is a cold open. It's a whole cold.
The flashback stuff basically the entire time. But you have like the Joel and Ellie stuff starting out. They completely just like lull you into a false sense of security here, because they start out where the last one left off. Not like right where it left off, but it's like Joel and Ellie are on the move. They're going. They have the whole bit where they stop at a gas station, and she has a little bit with the infected there. And you think it's just gonna be like kind of more of what you've been seeing in the first two, mainly the second episode now.
Yeah.
And then they get to a point where they stop at like a roadside bit, and they see like the pile of like corpses in the pit, and this is the horrible thing where it's like, yeah, well, they were basically executed before they could even get to the QZ.
World building.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, that's pretty harrowing. And then they start a flashback, right, to a town where everyone's getting rounded up, and I'm just like, oh my god, are we actually just gonna like watch this? Like, it was enough that you had to tell us why. But no, that's not what we're doing. They want you to think that's what we're doing, but no, we get the man, the myth, the legend, Nick Offerman here as a fucking prepper. And
so great, dude. So great.
The rest of the episode is basically, oh my god, dude, his little montage of just like building his little sanctuary. I'm just like, dude, if this wasn't a fucking apocalypse, this would look so fun.
Well, yeah, right?
They make it, and with the music too, it's just all like really. Like,
I was waiting for that.
It's a lot of levity to it.
That's what I was waiting for.
But the rest of the episode basically just plays out where he's just kind of like living on his own, and then he meets another survivor, and they're pretty distant, but they really immediately kind of hit it off. And the rest of the episode is just telling their little romantic story about how they were able to kind of like form a life together, even when the entire world around them has gone to shit. And granted, they had very extenuating circumstances that would allow this kind of thing to happen.
Yeah.
Shout outs to preppers, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's just like the actors and the writers are doing such a great job that it's just this really great, believable romance going on.
Yep. Yeah.
And you do get a little bit coming in where Joel and Tess come in and they have a little scene together that's kind of informing on the plot moving forward and why we're seeing all this beyond it just really good.
Yeah.
And the writers and the people who are making the show know it's really good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're big dick confidence, I guess. But oh man, dude, and so they have their whole thing, and it's really emotional and sad and happy. Like it's very tears of joy kind of thing. But in the end, you got Joel and Ellie get there, and I love them there, and I love like them at like Bill's compound with some of my favorite interactions between them. And I can't even tell you why. I just love like all the dialogue they had together. But they get the letter bit where it's just like, you know, Joel, you need to fucking you need to take care of the people you need to take care of. Learn from me, you know.
Yeah, and we're kind of like, I see you. I love the line of like, I hate you, Joel. Like I've always hated you, but I know that we are alike. We are like very similar with the way we think.
You're a real piece of work.
Yeah, so it's just, it's just,
but
cool.
Yeah, man, they just get in the car and they go off together, and Joel gets to share like his taste in music with the same song that Bill and Frank like formed their relationship over. Oh my god, playing that song over the end of the episode and panning back through the open window. Oh my god, it was so good, so good.
I think
my little heart can't take it.
Man, oh, it's so.
Anyway, it's great. I don't really want to talk like really granularly about it because I can't really add to it. Like I'm just someone who really enjoy. I can't really add anything more to it because it's already so great.
I think that's great. Like, I think it's cool. Once again, this is why we watched it like this, and everything is like seeing Riley's perspective and like how he saw the episode, and then like me like, oh shit, like this is what they did, and like this is so different. Like, what made them do this? And yeah, it was just really cool, and I really love both. Like, once again, I love both ways that this story of this character is told, because once again, like I said, it's very different from the games. In the game, Joel and Ellie are like, Joel is like, I gotta go to this guy because he owes me a few favors. So Ellie's like, okay, like you lead away. Like I don't know where to go. So they go through this town, Bill's town. I think that's what it's called actually in the game. Is Bill's town, and
I put a sign up.
So it's so funny because as soon as I saw the episode and like everyone's rounding up and then Bill's like underneath the town and he's like Bill's like, I don't know what he says, but he says something about like the guys upstairs.
Such a fucking quote. This quote about them is so good.
Yeah, and it's like immediately my mind was like, they're doing it right. I don't care whatever the rest of this episode is about. They got that part right because in the game you're going through this town and there's booby traps like everywhere. And Joel's like, Ellie, watch out, because Bill is like some type of like prepper. Like he just like likes to create this shit, right? And you're like
a prepper.
Yeah, and you're like, you gotta watch out for not blowing up and shit. And it's a really cool little scenario where you're going through this town and you finally get to Bill. But you know, in the show, when they get to Bill, like he's already like gone. And he just like kind of leaves this shit behind. In the show, you meet Bill, and the circumstances is basically like, Bill is fucking mad. He's like, you and this random ass girl that I don't know who this is come into my town and you set off all my fucking traps, and on top of that, you're telling me you need a car? Like what? So the interaction with Bill and Ellie are so funny because Ellie is like, at first she's like, oh hey, like you're Bill, like Joel told me like that you got some stuff for us, and then Bill is just like, who the fuck are you? Like I hate this little kid, and then their banter back and forth is just like, shut the fuck up, like fuck you type of like banter. And it's just so funny. It's so, I don't know, it's so witty. It's so, yeah, it just goes with the world. But basically, Bill is just kind of like, listen, I'm going to do this favor for you guys and you get the fuck out of my town. Like, I don't need, like, consider our hands washed, Joel. So obviously it's a game. So you go through the gameplay of like, going to go find this car. So when you find the car, like the engine's completely gone. And when the engine's completely gone, like a herd of zombies started to come in and like basically mess up you guys just chilling here. So Bill is like, fuck, we gotta go somewhere. We can't stay in here. So you guys like round up, you end up leaving and getting away from the zombies. This is also when the bloater shows up. He shows up later in the game, in the show, but
Right.
in the game, you get stuck in like this high school gym with the bloater, and it's like the scariest shit ever because he just busts out like these locker rooms and he's just like throwing shit at you, and it's just so scary. But yeah, anywho, you meet the bloater, you beat him, and then you finally like get out of that high school, and you end up at this house. And this house has Bill's car, like it's a truck with Bill's engine in it, and he was like that bastard Frank took my engine. So you're like, who the hell is Frank? So Joel's like, who's Frank? He's like, he used to be my partner, and he's like, oh, okay, like, all right. So they're like, okay, like, all right, well, let's look around the house or whatever. And he's like, and Joel, you help me get this car set up. So if you're the gamer, you're gonna be like, okay, I'll help you with that car, but let me look around the house. So when you look around the house, you see that there's a person hanging from the ceiling, and that person is Frank. And there's a little cutscene where Bill comes in, and he's like, fuck, like that bastard like basically died on me or whatever. And he's like, all right, well, I'll cut him down. So he ends up cutting him down or whatever. And he's like, well, like basically kind of like serves him right. Like he's very standoffish about Frank. And also, if you keep looking around that area, you find a note in the kitchen, and when you read that note, it's a note to Bill, and it's Frank saying basically like, Frank, like you basically pushed me away because you didn't want to you didn't want to live type of thing. Like you didn't want to live, you wanted to just kind of survive.
You get the
or
truck
whatever.
started.
And he's like,
head out
basically
of
like,
the
I
area
can't
because
stay
there was
here.
a
I can't
bunch of
live
zombies,
here
and
with
then
you
finally
anymore.
stopped
So I
you can drop
took the
Bill
liberties
off,
of leaving
and
you.
Joel and
And
Ellie
then that's
can
it.
go on
So
their
then
way.
you go back into
There's a little
the room with the
conversation
truck,
where
and
Bill's
Bill's
like,
in there.
you need
and
to
you
like
can have you have the choice
drop
to
that,
hand him
like
the
leave
note.
that girl
And then
behind.
you hand him
Joel,
the
because
note, and
you're
then
gonna get
Bill
yourself
leaves
killed.
it.
Like
So then
protecting
after that, you
others
get the car started
will get you
or whatever.
killed. And,
Zombies
like,
are zombies are
I
chasing
had to
you guys.
learn
You
to
start the
basically,
car
like,
and you leave. So it's
live by
very
myself,
different.
and that has
Very
been
much
the best
different.
choice for me.
Right? And then Joel's just like, okay. And then he's so yeah. I like both ways that this story is told. In the show, Frank and Bill, you know, they find each other, they're together, and Frank basically shows Bill that you can live, you can, even though this is these terrible things that happen, the world has basically ended, we are here together. You know what I mean? We've grown to love each other. So that should be good enough type of thing. And Bill learns to accept, like, I can live. I don't have to just survive. I can live. Yeah. And that is very reflected on Joel by the end of the show, that he has a reason to live, not just survive. And Joel has been just surviving up until this point. So in the game, I like it because now you have a character who is strictly just survival. He creates traps. He's created this whole thing. All he does is go out, get materials, and bring it back to his location. Right.
Right.
Though it's very subtle because they never explicitly say that him and Frank are together, but from inference from the notes, you just kind of get the vibe that something was going on here. Like after Frank left Bill, it leaves game Bill in like this like, okay, well, fuck the world type of thing. Like loving someone or loving anybody got me nowhere, so I shall just hold down the fort myself. And that is very much just a reflection of Joel. And Joel is singing this like, well, I don't want to be like that. That's not who I am. Or like, this is not what I want to be. You know what I mean? I don't want to be just someone who survives, once again. Now, granted, it's not that quick. It's not that quick of a turnover, just like it is in the game. But, in the show. But once you obviously play through everything, you can see why Bill is such a pivotal character, I feel like, or a very dichotomist. That's not even a word. A very
I know that.
reciprocal character to Joel. You know what I mean?
Right.
In the show, I think it's differently, more so because they're on the same side, almost by the end. But in the game, they're on two separate sides, but they both give off the same message almost. But yeah, that was different. My personal opinion, and this might be a hot take, I love episode 3. I like the game more in terms of just Bill, but also because I like Joel and Ellie and Bill's like interaction. I love that she finally got to meet him. I love the way Bill is, like, you know. Also, Bill survives in the game, whereas he dies in the show. So yeah.
Episode 4 is the one I have the least to say about. It's just kind of the transitionary period between episode 3 and then obviously like them meeting up with Sam and oh, this is why I should have taken notes.
Henry. Yep.
And they're kind of like adventure to get out of Kansas City.
Yes. Casey.
Yeah.
In
so-
the game, okay, so in the show, something you need to know is this little transitional period. There's a fight that ensues. Joel ends up like killing everyone, basically. Like he kills all these group of guys who are trying to like set them up like on the road. And then Ellie gets a gun because she ends up saving Joel. And then Joel ends up being like, okay, you can handle a gun because you saved me. This is a lot different in the game. Well, not a lot different. It just happens at a different point in time. Once again, this is one of those things I like the way the game does it a little bit more, but I see why they did it in the show because it fits right here. So why not? And in the show, oh my god, in the game it's a lot. It's so crazy because you meet Sam and Henry, but like the whole Ellie having a gun thing isn't really brought up a lot. Like Ellie's like, she's like, can I protect myself? And then Joel's like, no. It's like, nah, like I don't need you holding a gun. So later on, there's a scene where they're like, it's just Ellie and Joel, and they get trapped in this like building or whatever, and Joel and Ellie are like climbing on top of like elevators, but not in the elevator. They're on the outside of the elevator, you know, like the actual shaft of the elevator. They're climbing on top, and they have to like, Joel pushes up Ellie on top of like, I don't know, inside of a actual hallway because the elevator is lower than the hallway, right? So once Ellie gets in there, the elevator drops and Joel is separated from Ellie. So once he drops down in the basement where there's a bunch of zombies. And I was hoping that they did this in the show because it would have been so fucking scary. But they don't. But so basically Joel has to fight his way all the way back up to Ellie. He does. But once he gets up there, he gets strangled by like these hunter guys. He kills a few, and then one guy catches him and like strangles him, and he's strangling him underwater, and you have to like quick time event it or whatever, and you're trying to like quick time event, and you're like, oh okay, like Joel's probably gonna get out of this because whatever. But no, the guy like just pins you down underwater, and Joel's drowning, and then the guy like he gets shot, and then when Joel comes up and starts breathing, it's Ellie with the gun, and she's like, wow, like I definitely shot the hell out of that guy, didn't I? And he's like, and then Joel's like, you almost shot me, you almost killed me. And then Ellie's like, dude, what the fuck? You could at least say thank you. And I just love that interaction. And they don't really they do it, but it just doesn't have the same, I think, in the game as it does, or in the show as it does in the game. But either way, they still get the point across of Ellie does needs to protect herself. She does get a gun. So yeah, a little difference. But
I think my favorite moment from episode 4 is when they're initially driving into Kansas City, and there's like the guy on the road be like, help me, and immediately I'm just like, if I were Joel, I would just keep driving. I'm not stop for anything. And that's exactly what he does. And I'm just like,
it's so funny because this is a 1-for-1 also. And because in the game or in the show, I think they say the same line. The guy's like, help. And then Ellie's like, well, why aren't you going to stop him? He's like, he doesn't need no help. He just floors it. It's so great. And then like Ellie's like, how do you know? And he's like, this is like a little backstory for Joel for this 20-year gap between the first initial breakout and him now. He says like, I've been there. I know that. Like I know what they're doing. I know it's a setup.
It's a scam.
Yeah, it's a goddamn setup. Yeah, he knows it because he's been probably that person, or he's been part of that type of group of just hunters, survivors. People are willing to do anything to get materials, yeah. So I think that's a very interesting thing about Joel. That like is very subtle in both the game and in the show. Though the show kind of leans into it a little bit more. He talks about it a little bit more. I like the subtlety of the game in terms of like he did something of the stint, but he doesn't really dive into it. But yeah, that scene is really cool, and I'm glad they kept it all the same. But now it's a switch over because then you start focusing on Sam and Henry and what's going on with those guys. Basically they're trying to get out of Kansas City because. Okay, so this is the part I was a little confused, Riley.
Shit.
So
Yeah.
can you clean this up for me? Kathleen and all these group of people, they're not Fedra. They're people who went against Fedra.
Yeah, there were people under Fedra, and they kind of overthrew them.
Okay, I thought that shit was cool. That's not in the like none of that is in the games. There's just a bunch of like hunter guys who just so happen to have like they just have like military shit and the military gear and stuff. But I like the introduction of Kathleen. She's not a character in the games. That is strictly just a show character. Everything around her, Sam, Henry, all that is very, very like good in the show. I really like it.
She was fucking. She was zorked.
Yeah. Her right hand man, the guy with the long hair and the beard.
That was yeah. That's what Tommy in the game.
Yeah, he's Tommy in the game.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I first heard him, I was like, Tommy, bro, like what? Because I never knew what Tommy looked like in real life. So, yeah, it was really cool to see him. I was like, dude, that's so cool. I thought he was a cool character in the show too. Holy shit. Oh, something about this episode. Her speaking of like I can't remember his name. Let me like do a quick search.
You search that up. I'll be right back. Give me 5 seconds.
Yeah. Shit, what is his name? Oh no, I don't know the guy's name. Sorry guys, I am blinking here. I'm trying to look for the guy. He looks so different from these pictures. Basically, Kathleen's right hand man, but I'll talk about it when Riley gets back. But basically, he's this like soldier looking guy. But he's like the right hand to Kathleen. He's like the second in command or whatever. I can't think of his name. I couldn't find it, Riley. I don't know what he looks like either because these pictures are different from the show pictures. Yeah, he has like a long ass beard. He looks like Riley right now. What Riley looks like is what the guy looks like in the show.
I got that post-apocalyptic look going.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going for.
Good.
You noticed?
You look good though. You definitely will be able to pull a Frank if you needed to. So yeah, in the show, this character he goes up to Kathleen. He's like, "We need to like talk about something." She's like, "What?" They go down to like this basement thing, and it's just this door, and it's dark and creepy. And he has like his flashlight up, and she's like, okay, like what's going on? He's like, we gotta like do something about this. He opens the door, and it's just this like crater in the floor, like in this room, just this random ass crater. And she's like, okay, and then it starts growling. There's like rumbles underneath, and she's like, yeah, we'll deal with that later. And it's the funniest thing ever. Like, she's just like, yeah, no, I'm not fucking with it. Wherever it is down there, we're going to keep it down there because if it's not bothering us right now, it's not going to bother us later.
Your arrogance will be your undoing.
Right. So he's like, okay. So then they close the door and then Kathleen leaves and whatever. But the whole thing about Kathleen is she's trying to find Sam and Henry because you find out in the next episode, I believe, after this one.
Yeah, they do the setup for her before they even introduce him.
Yeah. She's trying to find Sam and Henry. You don't know who Sam and Henry is. You just know that she's looking for these characters. And then also, while this is happening, the whole Joel and Ellie coming in and killing some of their men has happened. So she's getting this information about people dying and getting killed, and she thinks immediately that is Sam and Henry, which is kind of cool. I think that's really cool.
One of my favorite... Not my favorite. It's such a weird trope in like post-apocalypse stories. Is this idea of like the main characters getting attacked and their lives threatened, and so they kill people in retaliation, and then it comes back to the like group those people come from. It's like they killed our people. We must take revenge.
Right.
I swear that's happened like 4 or 5 times in The Walking Dead.
And it's happened like 4 or 5 times in this show / game also. That is a thing that happens again later on. But yeah, so
funny. It's like you were so in the wrong, yet they have this vindictive nature about them.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sam and Henry shows up at the end of this episode. Joel and Ellie have found a place to like sleep at night. This is a funny shit because this is not in the games, but they find a place to sleep, and Joel has a smart idea to throw broken glass on the floor. And Ellie's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "So if someone walks in, they step on it, I hear it, I wake up." And then Ellie's like, "Isn't your hearing bad? Like, are you sure you're gonna hear them? Because you're pretty bad. I be calling you all the time. You don't be waking up, nigga." So he's like, "Bro, I got it. I'm good. I'm gonna get up. It is what it is." So she's like, "Okay." Immediately cuts to them sleep, and then all you hear is Joel, wake up! Joel wakes up to Ellie at gunpoint by fucking Henry. And then Sam has Joel at gunpoint. And Sam is much younger. He's like a little kid. And Henry's the older adult. And it's just a cool way to end the show. End of the episode. Because Henry is like pointing at Joel. And then Sam is pointing at Joel. And he just says like, shh, like don't say anything. And then the episode just ends. It's just like, I love that. This is really cool. And then the next episode is about like what they're doing and what's gonna go on. In the game, it doesn't have like that. So Joel and Ellie fight these hunters and whatever, but they're also running away because, like I said, these hunters have like military gear. So they have this like tank like thing going around the streets, and they're murdering like these survivors who's running around in the streets also. So then as Joel and Ellie are like creeping around this like tank, they're like climbing up these like skyscraper, more like apartment looking buildings, and they end up like sneaking into this room. And as they sneak into this room, Joel gets grabbed, and it's like Henry and Joel are like going at it, and then Joel just like starts beating the fuck out of Henry, like he's going ham, and then as he does, and then Ellie's like, Joel, stop, and then Joel like stops like punching, and he like turns and looks, and it's Sam holding a gun to Joel, and then he's like, and Henry's like, stop, like they're good, like they're not one of them, and then that's how their friendship kind of ensues. Is like because we were in the same position. In the game, Henry's just like he had a group of survivors, and they all got split up once they got ambushed by these guys. So he's like, but I know there's a way out of this town. All we have to do is get past this bridge or whatever. So that's where they're all heading. In the show, it's different. But Riley, you wanna? I don't know. We can go into the next episode because that's kind of like the end of that episode.
Yeah. The next episode is just character building for them and relationship building. And then you have the whole twist of like he was basically giving information to Fedra against his will. I mean, he's being threatened. He was damned if you do, damned if you don't. It just so happened that the people managed to overthrow Fedra, putting him in a really shit position.
That scene is so cool to me. It's so, because obviously this is very different from the games, and you don't get like this huge backstory with Ham. Yeah, I'm just gonna call him Ham. You don't get this big backstory with Ham. You just kind of get like they're survivors, and they will do anything to like survive. So at some point, Henry does like leave Joel behind because like they're getting shot at, and he just takes off. And then Ellie's like, "What the fuck, dude?" Yeah. So in the show, it's cool to hear like this more in-depth backstory about him selling off this guy, and it's just so cool the way he explains it, of like how everyone saw this guy as like Jesus, like he's this like dude who's like doing good for like these people who are under federal control, and he gets to a point where he's like, but I still do anything to like help my brother. Like at the end of the day, I have to help my brother, even if everyone else look up to this guy. You know what I mean? So he ends up selling the information of this guy to Fedra, and they end up killing him. And he's the brother of Kathleen, so that's why she's chasing them. But it's just really cool how he dives into it and he explains it, and he's like, "Does that make me a bad guy?" type of thing. Like, I'll do anything for my brother, just like you would probably do anything for that girl. Is what he said to Joel.
And boy, does that come back.
Yeah, and like I said, in the game, it is different. You know, I do like the backstory of Sam and Henry in the show. It does add more depth to at least Henry. You know, Sam is I mean, he's a little kid, so he doesn't. He's just, you know, he's trying to live with his brother and survive the apocalypse. But he's also deaf, in the show where he's not deaf. God damn, he's not deaf.
Oh, he's deaf, all right.
Yeah, he's deaf. Shut up. Yeah, he's not deaf in the game. He's much older in the game. He's about Ellie's age in the game. And he talks, and there's a whole scene with him and her too, which is cool. But yeah, I love the character development and what they do in the show. It adds a lot, and it's one of those changes that I was like, yeah, I'm glad they did that. Also, once again, acting phenomenal. I really like Kevon Woodard, who plays Sam.
Uncle Kevin Lannister.
He's deaf in real life, so that's cool. And Lamar Johnson, who plays Henry, he's really cool too. He did a really great job. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw out a guess. It's probably not true, but
yeah.
This is my total shot in the dark guess.
Ooh.
Not gonna be true. The sniper thing, that's out of the game.
Hell yeah, it is.
What? Oh my god.
You know what's not part of the game though? That's fucking cool. Yeah. The zombies coming out of the fuck. You remember that thing I was talking about last time? The last episode about like something being under the ground and growling? Yeah, well, this comes back. Who would have thought, right? I never thought they would bring it back, but apparently this house that's like on this street just fucking crumbles into the ground like an earthquake.
It just goes to a sinkhole.
And then
everything just goes quiet and zooms in. And just a wave of karmic retribution just comes out.
Now, mind you, this is happening while, like, Kathleen is chasing, like, Sam, Henry, and Joel, Ellie, all of them. And, like, this is all happening at the same time. Yeah, there's a lot of, like, really cool shit in this episode, like, especially around this action scene. So, like Riley said, like, there's a scene where the sniper's, like, trying to snipe them in the streets. All that's from the game. It's really cool. You do have to creep up into the house. You find the guy, and then you fight him. In the show, he's, like, this old man. And, like, yeah, Joel ends up just, like, yo, put the gun down. I'm not trying to kill you. But then the guy, like, is gonna kill him, so Joel kills him.
He's an old man to explain how he didn't hit a single shot.
Yeah. Also, it's in
my cataract.
They make it a point that they can move it dark because they're hard to shoot. Like, they're hard to shoot in the dark because it's at night. The game is daytime, so you get shot with that sniper once, you're fucking toasted in the game. So yeah, you end up going up there, killing the guy, and then you become the sniper to help Sam and Henry because zombies come in and the hunters, they find you. In the show, it's basically the same. Kathleen and them come in, and then the zombies come out of that sinkhole and wreak fucking havoc. And this is one of my favorite scenes because all I want is infected, and I got it, and I got a lot of it, and I got zombie infected girl crawling really weirdly over chairs and flipping clicker.
But whoever played that fucking infected. I want to say, like, I followed some of the discourse around the show.
Yeah,
mainly through Reddit.
Yep.
But I did see some people trying to like make the criticism that they wanted more action and more infected action.
That's me.
And to that, I would say I understand, but from my point of view, every action scene they did do with infected and otherwise, just action scene in general, it was done so well for me that I didn't mind. Like, quality over quantity, I think, is what I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I can see that. I guess my issue is with a lot. Okay, so it's weird. Okay, so let me see if I can make this make sense. Because I've been trying to explain this to someone else too, because they also play the games, and we kind of sat on the same side of like the infected and their presence in the show. So basically, a lot of like big plot points and stuff are due to the infected in the game. Like the way characters are moving, they're like where they move, how they move, the dialogue that's happening is all because of like the infected. And like You know what I mean? So, in the show, there's not a lot of that, so it might come off a little weird. And like, the pacing is fine in the show. Like, I don't ever feel like anything's going too quickly. I think my issue is every episode, maybe besides nope, because that happens too. Never mind. Every episode involves other human characters, right? My issue with that is it doesn't. I was trying to explain this to someone. Like, it doesn't feel like there's an apocalypse happening. It feels like everyone's on vacation and people are mad that everyone else is intruding on their vacation. To me, now that's not every, but it's just because there's not a lot of infected, so it's just
you
like
want the threat of the infected to be more apparent, more visible in the show,
because you get it the first. No, you get 2 episodes. The first one, then
so you get the first one, you get the second one with the clickers. You get
yeah, and granted that looks the early parts of the show definitely like there's a lot infected, and then it just kind of like falls off completely until
third is humans, fourth is humans, fifth is humans and infected, and then
which one's fifth? Is that the
fifth is the one we're talking about now?
Oh yeah, sorry, and then
6, 7, 8, and 9.
It's just mainly humans. There are infected, but there's like 1 or 2. And we'll get to this episode, but the episode Left Behind, where Ellie meets or you get a flashback episode with Ellie. In the game, that's DLC, so you don't actually know anything. Like, if you played the game right when it came out, you wouldn't know. It's just you heard about what happens and then whatever, and then they drop the DLC, and you're like, oh, this is cool. So in the game, that scene feels a lot more scary because there's just 2 kids who are trying to fight a lot of infected. In the show, it's just 1 infected, and they're in a giant mall. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. But that, once again, I feel like that's a nitpick, because I do, like Riley said, I do still like the character work. They still get it across. I just think I would have liked to see a lot more infected because they are prominent in the game, and of course it's a game, so you need some action. But I think there's a lot of cool things in the game with the infected that could have utilized in the show, and they don't. And it's just a lot of human interaction. So when you have it back to back, like Bill and Frank, Sam and Henry, then you have Riley, like all these are just character deaths, and it seems back to back to back. That's also why I like why Bill survives in the game, because you're like, oh, okay, this is a character to survive. Even though we saw him, he survived, so now it's maybe up in the air of who survives at the end. You know what I mean? Whereas in the show, it kind of is like everyone that Ellie and Joel is coming across fucking croaks. So it's like, maybe it's called Last of Us because they literally will be the only ones left. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, that's my nitpick. There's one thing that I really wanted from the show, but I still got some really amazing, like, infected and stuff, so I can't knock it down too much. But had they been bad, this would have been a whole different conversation, boy. But yeah, I'm just a person who really loves the infected, really loves zombies, and I think a lot of time media takes the zombies and infected out of it. And that's why, like, stuff like The Walking Dead gets very boring to me. Yeah, whereas something like Train to Busan, where you have these character developments, you have all this, but it's all fueled from the zombies. Zombies are throughout that whole movie. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's just my personal opinion, but I can see why there's discourse behind it, but I can also see why you can just like the show for just doing what it does. Yeah, and does it well, so. Yeah, sorry. That was a very long tangent, but it's one of the things I've been saying on.
I get you.
Yeah. Yeah, so Henry Sam ends up getting bit in that episode. And he ends up turning into the infected at the end, and then Henry ends up killing him, and then he ends up taking his own life. Very sad. It's very sad in the show. It's very sad in the game.
The acting was great.
Acting
across the board, all 4 of them.
Yeah, dude. It's dude. I once again, it's one of those things I love comparing it to. Also, I'm on TikTok a lot, and one thing that TikTok does is putting the show and the game side by side. So you're watching it together, and like, oh, dude, it's just so. Everyone just did a really good job on all accounts, and yeah, it's just really sad. It really is something you have to watch and really feel. But yeah, it's just really good. In the game, right after Henry takes his life, like Ellie's like sitting there and she's like she like witnessed it, and it just cuts to black and then does like a time skip. In the game they do time skips by seasons, so it starts in summer and then like it's like fall, winter, and then I think it wraps back around to like spring. But right when it cuts to black after the death of Sam and Henry, it goes like fall and then comes back to Joel and Ellie, and you're at their like burial site or whatever. It's very much similar in the show. Obviously the
show's more immediate.
Yeah, it's more immediate. They go right into like burying them. But yeah, but both really great way of telling the story. So Sam and Henry's couple of Joes right there. Yeah. Next episode is episode 6?
6, 7, 8, and 9 are the ones I've only seen once. I think every other episode I've seen twice.
Oh, okay.
So these ones I'm a bit more hazy on, I'll admit.
6, you meet Tommy again. You don't really meet him. You meet him in the first episode,
right?
But you really get
a commune.
Yeah, you really get to see Tommy and his commune, and they're doing really well for themselves. I love the line of like, everyone gets equal share and everyone like puts their part, and then he's like, so Joel's like, so communism.
Sounds like communism. It's like, well, we're in a commune.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. Really good episode. Really, I love the actor for Tommy. He does a really good job. Obviously, we said this 1,000 times. Just expect that every character that shows up, they're introduced or you get backstory or whatever, is going to be good acting, and they play the role well. Yeah. So, but yeah, I definitely loved this episode. I love seeing more of Tommy. He's messing with a little sister, you know what I mean, a little black woman. That is not happening in the fucking game.
Dude, we got a progressive ass show.
Do we? Everybody messing with black girls? Like, come on, let's go. Let's do it for the queens. But yeah. He has a little commune. Tommy has a little family, and Joel is kind of like trying to push Ellie with Tommy. So, cause
he doesn't want to get his heart broken again.
Yeah, he explains to Tommy that it's because he's like old and he just can't do it. You know what I mean? Whereas Tommy probably knows the real reason why he won't do it is because of Sarah. And
I mean, this is the episode that sort of like starts going into the idea of Joel like really not being able to mentally handle the thought of, like, you know, what happened to his daughter happening again.
Yeah.
They do that several times throughout the episode.
Yeah.
And it's so good. Oh my god. My boy Pedro, he's a fucking class act of acting.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a girl in the background of this episode several times. She's from the game.
She's not in this one, yeah, but she's in the next one, yeah. They set it up for the future.
Right.
In the game, that doesn't
you don't just put that in there just to show Ellie standoffish. Like that's probably something that I'm not getting yet.
Yeah, and it's weird how they did it in the show, because the relationship in the second one doesn't, like, I don't know. I get it. They're setting it up, and obviously, if you play the game, you're like, hey, but hey, I know where that's from.
I clapped because I know that.
What's the thing that you say, Riley? Hey, it's that guy. Yeah, that's
the guy.
Yeah. But other than that, it's fine. Once again, speaking of what I just said, the things that transpire in this episode is very different. Well, not very. I keep saying that. It's different from the game in the sense of, so in the show, this is a scene that I absolutely love. It's my favorite scene in the games. Like, is my number one scene. I have a lot more scenes that I love, but it's like every emotion is conveyed in this one scene, and they do it in the show, and I don't think the emotions come off as strongly. So that once again is me nitpicking, but it's still fine. He still gets the thing across. I'm sure Riley likes it, right? I haven't said the scene, so problems. you don't know what scene yet. But it's the scene where Ellie's in this bedroom, and Joel like comes into the bedroom, and Ellie has heard about Joel's daughter because up until this point he hasn't brought it up. So she hears about the daughter, and she's basically saying like, Joel, I am not her. Like, you don't have to shove me off to Tommy. Like, I know you can protect me. I know I can stay alive. We can go through this together. I've grown to like who you are. I wouldn't want to be with anyone else, basically. I want to be with you and traverse and get to the end of this with you because I've grown to know you. And Joel is like, not, like, he's not trying to get involved with her because he's like, I know how this is probably going to end. So he's very like Ellie, stop, like don't talk about it. We don't bring it up. You're staying with Tommy, and that's that. In the game, it's the same way, obviously. But some lines of dialogue is like taken out in the show that I really like, and also Joel seems a lot more like, you do not talk about Sarah. Like, you do not bring it up. I think he conveys that. Troy Baker conveys that a little bit more in the game, and very much like there's a line where Joel's like, Ellie, you're treading on some mighty thin ice there. Like, he says that line, and it's just the way he says it is so like, there's so much conviction to it. And he doesn't say that line in the show. Once again, that's me very much nitpicking, but I just love the way,
check yourself before you wreck yourself, basically.
It's just done so much with so much more in the game, but I still like it in the show. It's fine. And prior to that, Ellie isn't just walking into like a house, or like she's not shown this place in the game. In the game, what happens is a group of like I keep saying hunters because a lot of hunters are in this game, but these group of hunters like show up at the compound, and they start to try to overthrow, like they try to like just take things.
This is the same group of hunters throughout the entire game.
Throughout the game,
showing up.
Yeah. So basically, you deal with them, and then after you deal with them or whatever, this is like during the time Ellie finds out about Joel's daughter, but instead of like kind of just holding it to her, she takes a horse and she just books it because she's like running away. Like, she's like, I'm not about to stay here with Tommy after learning all of this. So then you have to like follow her on a horse too, and you get to this random ass house. And then once you get to the random ass house, you go inside, and then that's when Ellie's just like, did they really care about all of this back then? Because she's like reading this like comic book or magazine or whatever. Oh, it's a diary. Sorry, it's a diary. She's reading about the girl's life who used to live at this random ass house. And then they transpired the whole scene that happens in the show. And then once again, after they have that conversation, they don't get to marinate on this. Joel is like, you're right, you're not my daughter. And she's like, fine, whatever. And as soon as they say that, hunters show up to this house because they like follow them. And Joel's like, oh shit. So he's like Ellie, like, get back. So you have this whole fight that ensues. And I think for the game, this is important, not just because it's a game, unique action, but it's important because Joel is like, well, now I'm finding myself still protecting her. And now that I've killed all these guys, he's like, I'm the only one that can protect her. So now it's set into his mind that like, oh, Tommy, like, I don't need you to do it. I can do it myself. And I think that's very important. And that's something that doesn't happen in the show. Joel kind of sleeps on it, and then he wakes up to the epiphany of like, yeah, I can watch this girl. But
in the game, are they still framing it in the way if he's trying to dist himself to like protect himself from another loss?
Yes.
Or is it?
Yeah,
so it's still framed in that way. Okay.
Yeah, so him and Tommy also talk about it. And he's like, so Tommy's like, listen, like, I know what happened with Sarah, and then Joel's like, don't do it, Tommy. Like, he's like, I just don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to get close or whatever. Whereas in the show, it's more so like, he said, like I said, he's like, I'm getting old. I don't really want to do it. But yeah.
I mean, That's what he's saying.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's very much inferred that Tommy knows his brother. He knows that the real reason he doesn't want to do this is because it's another little girl. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and that part I'm fine with. But it was just more so like the action set piece and stuff like that. I think could have been cool in the show. But yeah.
Is this the episode that starts with the old couple in the cabin?
Oh fuck yes, it is. It is.
Okay.
It's so funny.
I love that old couple.
That old couple is
great
so great.
scene.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that scene, but it's so funny. There's two, little old couple living out in the middle of nowhere, and it would have been so cute if they had a dog. But they don't. But like yeah, and this like Joel and Ellie like encroach on their place, and you don't know because this old man just comes into his house and sees sees Joel like holding a gun, and he's like, "You didn't shoot him," and she's like, "They were nice." It's just like okay,
like made him soup and stuff.
yeah. And then she's like, he has a little girl. And then Ellie's like, I'm up here. So I don't know what she says, but it's just so funny. It's just a funny scene. And I was like, I'm glad he added this. It's cute.
Man.
But yeah, that's
okay. So we're at 6. Where does 6 end? 6 doesn't end with Joel getting stabbed, right? That's the next episode.
No.
I'm just trying to remember what happens in episode 7. Otherwise,
wait, actually, no. 6 ends with Joel getting stabbed because 7 is the back. 7 is the back.
7's the backstory. Then what happens in 8?
8 is David. That's one of my favorite. That is my pin. That's my favorite episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah. So 6 ends with them getting to. So Joel ends up taking Ellie. He's like, I can do it. They go to like the university, and then they're looking around, but the Fireflies aren't there. And these group of hunters, these group of survivalists or whatever,
hunter.
They show up, and then Joel and Ellie fights them off, and then Joel gets stabbed with like the part of this bat.
Yeah, it's like the bat that got broken.
Yeah. That part is different in the game, and it's the rawest shit in the game. Like, I don't know how he survives in the game, so maybe that's why they made it more like believable in the show.
Wouldn't believe it.
So like in the game, Joel and this guy are fighting. So it's like a cutscene. They're fighting on like the like top of like a you know in a if you've ever been to a college, there's like multiple story colleges, and there's like an atrium almost where there's like this big open area where you know these levels all connect, but you can see down. So they're like on like the second level, so it's not too high, but it's still high. And they're fighting each other. So then the guy like pushes Joel's head over the top of the railing. Like he pushes over him so his back is like over the railing. And he like so Joel and him are like pushing each other, and then Joel like takes them and just like both of them throw each other over the thing, and there's like a metal like rebar frame sticking out at the bottom, and Joel just lands right on it.
Why is there a metal rebar frame?
Yeah, because like the building is like broken down. Like it's not like but so he just lands on it, and he's like, and it's the most like, it's just so fucking terrible to look at.
Full metal.
Yeah, and he like pulls himself off of the bar, and he just gets up, and he's like leaning over. So Ellie's like, Joel.
And then he has to transmute his life energy into
Ellie.
He must turn him. You must pretend that he is a philosopher still.
So you're playing like limping Joel, and like your screen is like going in and out, and you're like trying to like move, and then Ellie's like, Joel, can you get up? He's like, yeah. It's just like get up, like we I need you to shoot. So like these guys busting through the entrance of this college, or whatever, and then Joel is like, you're trying to shoot, and you're like your cursor or whatever, it's just fucking swaying. You're just like no good.
It's worse than usual.
Shut the. So then Ellie ends up like helping you on the horse. You guys end up like getting away, but then Joel falls off the horse while you guys are riding, and then it cuts to black, and then it picks up with Ellie. So from this point in the game, you're playing as Ellie, which is so cool because you spend you spend like I don't know at this point probably 65%, 70% of the game just playing Joel. And then now you play as Ellie, and you have to like go out and get like supplies. But yeah, fucking cool. And in the show, he gets stabbed with the end of the bat, and like the same thing transpires. He like kind of passes out, and then Ellie somehow gets him back to like this house, which once again I don't know. So I would like to know if these spots that they're choosing in the show are the spots that they scouted for the game. Like they scouted, because like literally it's a 1-for-1. The house they're in, the outside location is like, I was like, dude, it's like. How did they do this? I do not understand, but yeah, it's cool.
I can't imagine that practically, but I mean, it would be very impressive if they did.
I really want to show you. I'm going to show you some scenes after we're done with the
I imagine
podcast.
it's like HBO money, like they could just recreate
Yeah.
whatever they need to
Probably like a
recreate.
studio.
I think that's probably more, yeah, just like a studio set probably, but or just go out and fucking build it out and whatever, like. Anyway, yeah, I imagine HBO money is a big
Yeah.
factor there.
Yeah.
Makes more sense.
So now
All right. So what? Episode 7
episode
now.
7. Yes, we have a backstory.
This one's the backstory, right?
Yeah.
I was iffy on this one, honestly.
Interesting.
Looking back, I think it was fine, but in the moment, I'm like, we're doing another full episode backstory. But I mean, it's obviously important because it's like one of the 2 leads that you're doing it for, and we don't know enough about her, and it's obvious that they need to have that explained.
Yeah.
And by the end, it's like, all right, yeah, this makes sense as to why we need to see all this. But definitely in the moment, I was like, I wonder, like, I can't imagine where they're going with this.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because
That
like I said,
actress is Ruth's sister, right?
yeah. I was gonna bring that up. I was gonna make a joke.
Yeah, I was like,
But yeah,
like,
it is
I know
Ruth's
that
sister in
actress.
Euphoria. Storm Reed. I follow her on Instagram. She's cool. But yeah,
wow.
it's funny you said that because I didn't know they were going to dedicate an episode to this, but once I saw her in like, I think it was like a preview thing, but I try to stay away from all the previews. But I think because I follow her on Instagram, she's like, I'm in The Last of Us, and I was like, oh, I think I know what character she's gonna be. But like I said, in the game is DLC, and it's showing in the and they don't do this in the show. They don't do this in the show, but they do it in the game because you obviously need action. Because a lot of the episode is basically just showing these 2 characters, how they play off each other, like what's happening. And there's a lot of like nothing going on until the end, right?
What are you talking about? They played Mortal Kombat, Chris.
Yeah, they do in the games too.
Jesus.
So in the game, it's slicing
Nothing
between.
happening.
In the game, they're cutting between how did Ellie get the medicine? Like, well, sorry, not just the medicine. How is Ellie surviving while Joel is gone? And it intercuts with her backstory. So you're just getting like 2 things happening at the same time. But her going to get supplies for herself and stuff is happening in a mall. So you're like going around traversing this like little small mall, and then it cuts to the mall of her and Riley.
Neat.
Look at that. So yeah,
Hi,
it's
how
cool.
you doing?
But yeah, as for the show though, you basically just get Ellie growing up in a what's it called?
Petra.
QZ.
QZ,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, she's like growing up in the QZ. You find out that Fedra kind of wants her to like maybe like step up and kind of like maybe take the leads and lead these people because she looks like a leader. She gives off leader vibes. You also hear about this character named Riley who basically has left and no one knows where she is. She's been gone for a few weeks. And then she shows up and she basically tells Ellie that she is a Firefly now. So she will be leaving to go to Seattle. I think that's what she said. So yeah, it's just an episode, them 2 characters spending time with each other for like the last day that she's there. And then you find out that you don't find out. At the end of the episode, like they get attacked by an infected in this mall because Riley's been hanging out this mall, scoping it out for a little bit, and she wanted to show Ellie that, so she does. There's an infected there. The infected end up biting Ellie and Riley, and they kind of just sit there and die together.
Yeah, by the way, the fact that that entire mall still had access to power and it still worked and made everything get electricity, that is such bullshit.
Yeah. Riley had a way. She had a generator.
For the entire mall.
Yeah. They play Mortal Kombat, Riley. So, Mortal Kombat has the power of like 10 malls.
The Mortal Kombat machine was actually a pathway to the Outrealm where they were drawing their energy from, I see.
Yeah, and they were going to fight the Lin Kuei, but they just didn't get the chance to do so. The creators thought that would be stupid, so they took it out. Also, in the games, obviously, they can't reference other games, so it's not called Mortal Kombat in the games. It's like some generic as like Kung Fu Fighters or some shit like that. But yeah, I mean, it plays out very similar in the game. Like, once again, it's probably 1-for-1. Everything's happening. Like I said, the only thing that changes is in the game. There's a lot more infected that attack Ellie and Riley. And Riley does hold off some of them. You hold off some of them. There's like a cool scene where you have to like hide while the infected are like running. It's really cool. And then I think a couple infected attack them, and then both of them get bit. But yeah, I thought it was a fine episode. It's kind of sad, just like a sad story for Ellie. Especially when you, what?
It's kind of sad.
Well, like I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this sense of like I've already experienced the whole game before I've seen this content. So this is just adding on to like Ellie's backstory. I already thought she was sad. She's a kid who's immune to the infection, but she like literally saw people die, but you don't know what that means until this thing, And I was like, oh, that's sad. Like, I've already seen sad shit. But yeah. So when she talks about at the very last episode and at the end of the game, she has a conversation with Joel, and she's like, I had a best friend, and this is what happened, and basically this episode fills in that gap. But yeah,
that's nice of them to give it to people who may not have bought the DLC.
Yeah, right. They could have just held it.
And that
they should have made it
for DLC.
They should have made it a special episode like fucking Euphoria.
Extra $5 to buy this episode.
Yeah, you have to. No, you can only stream it on HBO Max. You have to get HBO Max for this episode. But yeah, it was a cool episode. Like I said, I thought it was cool because it's just 1-for-1. Yeah, that's it. I don't really have anything to add to the episode or anything. Riley Reid did a good job. I mean, Riley Reid. Storm Reid did a good job. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I have nothing else to add.
Riley Reid is a porn star, I think, also. I just thought about that when I said it. Anywho, yeah, that's it. Next episode is When We Are in Need. This is my favorite episode.
All right.
Yeah. So, by this time in the game, you are playing Ellie. Still. Okay, so the way this episode starts is really fucking cool. Because it's like the game, so whatever. So, Ellie starts off hunting this like deer because she needs like food.
Ooh, caribou.
So she tracks down the deer because she shot her with an arrow, and these guys are also tracking it down. Well, in the game they kill it, and then Ellie just runs into them because she's like, "Fuck! Like you guys took my deer." In the show, I think it's a little bit different. I think she shoots it.
She shoots it first, and then they find it when it because obviously if you don't shoot a deer in the heart, it's gonna book it. They can get pretty far on adrenaline.
Yeah, and then
they find it.
Yeah, they find it. Also, one of these people are Troy Baker, who is the voice actor of Joel, for anyone who doesn't know. So that was always I saw him instantly. I was like, oh, hey, I know that guy. But yeah, it was really cool.
Yo.
So in the show, I love this, but they kind of give this whole backstory to this character that's introduced named David. He has his own little compound thing, and he's like a preacher in this compound. Very much cult vibes. Gives very much cult vibes, and he get called out for it. So,
That's why it is your favorite, because of the cult vibe.
I love cults. I love cults and zombies, and if I can get that in my media, we're a-okay. So it's a 10 out of 10 for me. So yeah, definitely gives cult vibes. But he stumbles across Ellie, and then Ellie's like, "Hey, like, I'll give you half this deer if you give me medicine," basically. So then David sends Troy Baker. David sends Troy Baker to go.
His name is James. I could be wrong.
In the show.
Yeah, I could be wrong about that.
I can always.
It's just my shot in the dark guess. I'm trying to remember his name.
Yeah, I can always look for you.
Yeah, he goes back to the compound to get the penicillin and brings it back.
Yeah, so while he's there, Ellie and David kind of share like a small conversation about who each other is. So she asks him about like, who are you? Like, he says he's a preacher. She calls him out saying like, sounds like you're running a cult. And he's like, "Hi, you kind of got me there." And he's like, you maybe come back with us or whatever. But then he starts to like, "Oh, this is so cool. I loved it in the game, and I love it in the show." But basically, he's like, like, who's this medicine for? Like, you gotta have someone like who's like hurt or something. Like, you're taking them back to your group of people or whatever. So right when she shot the deer, she says like, "Oh, I need the medicine for my group of survivors. Like, and I need the food because we're very hungry." Because that's the thing that David tries to say. He's like, "Oh, my group are very hungry." And she's like, "Yeah, we are hungry too." Okay, so fast forward back again to the conversation, and then David's like, "Yeah, like, like, you gotta have this medicine for someone. Is it like your dad?" So she's like, He's like, "So it's first like someone. It's like a dude, like a grown man." She's like, "Okay, yeah." She kind of like, "All right, like, I'll give you a little information, but that's about it." And he's like, "I had a group of guys."
It's a
like,
funny story.
Yeah, he's like, "It's a funny story. Like, I had a group of guys. They went out, and like, some of them didn't make it back. And like, I heard that all of a sudden, like, the guys that killed him was like this grown man and this little girl. Like, you're a little girl, so."
It also gives some very dark context to that last episode where it's like, what were these guys doing trying to like attack Joel and Ellie? Like, what would have happened if they had actually won that fight?
So once again, oh man, Riley, you're gonna hate me. Once again, in the game,
he's like fucking what's his face talking about hot tea? He's like, in the book.
Yeah, so they're having this conversation. Oh, okay, so sorry. The right before the okay, so right after he sends the guy away to go get the penicillin, all that is the same in the game. But then they go and sit down in like this little shack, like this little broken down house looking thing. It's not a shack. It's like a lumber mill almost.
Yeah, it's the same in the show.
The same in the show. Yeah. So they're hanging out there, but then zombies attack, or the infected attacks them in the middle of this like snowy thing. So then they're fighting. So the only reason David says like maybe you're the little girl, because he sees you're playing Ellie. Obviously, he sees Ellie doing like this really good shit. Like, she's good with a snipe, like this hunting rifle. She's good with an arrow.
They start doing combo moves together.
She starts like jumping over David's back and doing drop kicks, and he's like, "This little girl is fucking crazy." Yeah, no. So he calls her like, he's like, "You're really good with a weapon. Like, how did you get so good? Like, you're really good at all of this." And then he puts together that, oh, maybe this is the little girl that was running with the old man. In the show, it doesn't happen like that. It's like he kind of just assumes that this little girl is with this guy.
I think it makes sense in the show, considering it's a post-apocalypse and how many like daddy daughter teams are running around.
Yeah. I'm like, what? I'm just
like, that's what. Well, that makes sense to me, because it's like, who else? Like, if you see this little girl running around with a gun hunting, it's like,
yeah, but he also has little girls in his compound, like.
Well, okay, but if you're in a situation where you see this little girl trying to get medicine for someone who's injured, and you know that your three guys came back knowing that this guy, like, got stabbed before breaking their friend's neck.
But do we know that? Like,
that's what I inferred based on him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think it made sense to me in the show, but I understand where you're coming from, where the game gave it extra context with the action mixed in. I get it.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay.
That's. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I think it makes sense in the show when, like, especially with how much they want to do with this episode.
Right.
They couldn't, mix in an action scene in there.
Yeah.
When it works well enough. Him just being able to make the inference.
Yeah, he's and like I said, it's fine. It's still my grievance or my grievances are always shied away if the context of the story is the same. So, like I said,
Right.
all these things that I'm saying are of course things I want, but because
things
the
that you
story's the
prefer in
same,
game.
yeah.
I get it. I get
yeah.
it.
So yeah, so he goes through that, and then he's like, so Troy Baker shows up, or James. He shows back up with the penicillin, and he knows also that this little girl is probably the reason why one of the people in the village has died. So he's very hesitant on giving her the penicillin, but David's like, no, give it to her. Like, we'll let her go. So then, obviously, she's going to take it because she needs it. So she takes it, and she leaves, and she takes I guess she takes the deer with her.
No, she doesn't. She just she fucks off.
Yeah, I think in the game she might have just straps it to the horse and then yeah. It's
Hey, I know. In the show, she bolts out of there. She don't take no deer.
Yeah. So she, like she goes back to the thing, and then David like goes back to his compound, and he's like, okay, we're gonna get. So this is obviously different because you don't know what David's doing while you're Ellie. But in the show, you get more context for David in this like compound and like what he's actually doing, how he actually treating his people. Oh god,
my favorite
dude.
bit is in like the kitchen where they bring like a bowl of meat in. It's like, what is like it's venison. It's like, oh, okay, so they brought the deer back and they butchered it and stuff, and then it cuts out to the main hall where they bring the deer in, and it's like,
But
so what was that?
but the thing is though, is when he says venison, she doesn't look convinced. She's very much like
she's like, sure.
yeah, like oh, okay, venison. But then he's like, guys, I brought venison. It's just so embarrassing. But yeah, like a little bit more context later. Oh, sorry, and also early in the episode, they're like the very beginning of the episode, you kind of see David, and they're having like this funeral type of thing, and the daughters, one of the daughters of the guy is like, when do we get to bury my father?
And I love it because David gives Troy Baker a look, and he's like, "Let's wait till spring when the ground's not too hard." And I'm like, "That's a really good excuse, first of all.
Yeah,
you can't bury a body in the winter. Come on."
Yeah,
but at the same time, he has to come up with that excuse because he's literally feeding this girl her dad.
Yeah, it's fucking.
It's so funny.
So yeah, you find out that David and his little group
and horrible. It's not funny. It's horrible.
David
but
is
in a really dark way,
feeding his commune bodies like humans. So everyone's cannibals, whether they want to or not. They are.
It's cannibals all the way down.
Yeah. So it's pretty fucked up. So yeah, and then fast forward, he says that they need to get this little girl because she did kill one of their people, and obviously
they killed one of our own.
So they gotta.
It's that thing again, isn't it?
They gotta get revenge. So David feels like
you were the aggressor.
Also, there's this weird like he's like a sexual offender too, kind of like alluded to in this scene with him and this girl. He ends up like slapping this young girl. And he's like, "I'm your dad now," and it's really weird. But
really, the preacher, nah.
Yeah, okay. Really, I'll give my opinion on
him being a teacher before the apocalypse, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'll give my opinion on that, but I really do like the fact that they give context of him being a teacher before all of this. Really fucked up. Yeah. So
this old guy reminds me of like the Norm Macdonald joke, where it's like this man. He's a killer. He kills people. He chops up their bodies. He feeds them to his people and those kids there that get fed the humans. He's also a rapist. He was a teacher who was a rapist, and now he's a preacher who's a rapist. This guy was a real jerk. That's what it reminds me of. This guy is so fucking evil.
Yeah, they give you a really good, like, you meet this guy, you're like, I don't like this guy, like, instantly. I think in the game is not as, like, you're kind of like, I don't know what this guy is. But then, once again, like, he's like, yo, you can have a half of it. Like, you don't know. Once again, you don't have this backstory. You don't have the commune. You don't know what this guy is. Or, you know, it's him and this other guy, and they're out trying to get this deer. And he's like, I have people who's hungry. And once again, if you're coming off the game idea of, like, the last people you've seen before David is Sam and Henry. So you're kind of like, oh, this guy might be a good guy, too.
I was literally thinking that, like, you don't, because they introduce people like Bill and Sam and Henry, there is that thing in the back of your mind where someone might not be evil.
Yeah.
It's not like every single person you're running across has been evil every single time.
It's not Dino. Like,
dude, shout outs to Dino.
No, we're not shouting out Dino. He was a rapist. He's like so
That's a real jerk.
So they lure you into a false sense of security. I think in both the show and the game, I think the game just does a little bit better because you just don't know his backstory. So, and I think in the show, you know his backstory, or you know he has a commune. It just comes off a little weird. But yeah, so obviously he sends some people out and himself. They all go in the game. He doesn't, but in the show he goes.
Like when a man gets his own work done.
Yeah, he's definitely not fucking your boy from Game of Thrones, Ramsay. Yeah, so he ends up
getting the thick of it. Remember, he didn't have a shirt on. He just got out of bed. He went right into it with the Ironborn.
Yeah, with the Ironborn. But then Jon Snow was like, yo, I'm about to fuck your shit up. And he's like, no, I'm going to stay behind enemy lines. Or behind my line. So they send people to go get Ellie, including himself. And then Ellie says, I'm going to, like, she knows that they're coming. She tells Joel. Joel is like fucking sick on the fucking ground, dying. And then Ellie's like, I'm gonna lure them away from you. So, you know, if I don't come back, you have to defend this place or whatever. So she tried to like get on her horse so she can make tracks because they're in the snow. Make tracks away from the house.
She gives him the knife and she's like, if anyone comes in here, you fucking kill them.
And then Joel's just like, yes. He's like,
so zoinked at his
He's like, I don't know what's going on, but like, I get
it's such a great setup for what actually happens because even with what you've seen of him up to this point, you're like, what the fuck is he gonna do?
Yeah.
It's like, just you fucking wait.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, anywho. So, sorry, she gets on the horse, she's riding away, and then her horse gets shot. So in the game, you play through this whole scene of your horse getting shot, and you fall down into this it's like a river, and it leads to like this big lake house type of thing, like a sing off the side of the lake or a river. I said river, but it's like more like a lake, ravine type of thing. And there's a house there, so you have to sneak inside the house, and they follow you in the house. And this is where the action scene ensues, where you're playing Ellie, and you have to take out all these guys in this house. It's really cool. In the show, they end up getting her horse, and then she passes out. Rightfully so. She slung off a horse and she fucking passes out. They grab her and then they take her away. David wants to kill her, but not David. Troy Baker or the other people want to kill her, and then David's like, no, we can keep her.
Yeah. Like what do you think is going through their minds there? Because you could think of it as like they know what's gonna happen to her if they bring her back, and they don't like they feel bad, or they could be thinking like, why if we just they could also be thinking like David like might have this weird connection, he might want to keep her alive, and maybe we just want to fucking kill her so we could eat her.
That's what I was thinking, especially Troy Baker's character was definitely like I don't want to keep her alive because I know what happens with little girls around you, bro. Yeah, I think it is a lot of that. At least that's what I got from it. But I can also see it as like, no, we want to just kill her now and get the food. But yeah, so yeah, they take her away. In the game, you fight through all those guys and you finally like escape and you're about to run out, and then David hits you because, like I said, David doesn't come with them, so you don't know where he is. But you get hit by David. I think it's David. He grabs you and like chokes you out or whatever. And then this is where both the show and the game line back up, and Ellie's trapped in this like gated area. Okay, so then they cut back to Joel, and this happens in the game too. This is so fucking cool. So you have these two things happening at the same time, and Joel like wakes up. He wakes up like wait, where am I? He's like trying to figure out where Ellie is, but here's guys, and he's like okay, you know, deductive reasoning. These guys probably took Ellie. I'm gonna fuck their shit up. So you play as Joel, and you're like kind of hurt or whatever, but you're fucking shit up. It's like so fucking cool. And in the game, he wakes up, he fucks these guys up, and then he keeps both of them. And the game is the same thing, and I just love. If I didn't want to see anything else in this fucking show, I wanted to see two things. I wanted to see the Ellie and Joel scene in the house that I talked about. It was my favorite scene, and I wanted to see this interrogation scene because it's the rawest shit, and it just sets up who Joel is and his character and how he's so badass. Where he has these two guys tied up, and he's like, goes to one guy. He's like, tell me where she is, and this guy's like, I'm not gonna tell you anything. So he stabs her in his fucking leg, and he's like, you're gonna tell me where she is. And then he's like, okay, dude, okay. So he takes the knife out of his leg and sticks it in his mouth and tells him to point to it on the map. And if it doesn't line up with what the other guy says, they're both fucked. And it's so fucking good. It's just the acting for both Pedro and Troy. It's just phenomenal. It's a good ass scene. And then, you know, Joel ends up figuring out where she is or whatever. And the other guy's like, the other guy in the back is like, I'm not gonna tell you shit. And he was like, what does Joel say? It's such a good line. It's like,
He said, I believe him.
yeah, he's like, oh yeah, he's like, no worries, I believed him. And he just, and it just cuts to black in both the game and the show. And I'm like, I'm glad you kept that in. Good job, good fucking job, Neil. Because I was gonna fight you if it just didn't cut the black. But yeah, so yeah, go back to Ellie, and then Ellie's trapped in a cage. She sees that there's an ear on the ground. So now we've confirmed that they're cannibals, even though we probably knew that already. In the game, you don't know that. What's scary is David comes in and he slides a plate to Ellie. And he's like, I know you're hungry. And Ellie just starts to like eat it like really fast. And then she looks over and sees the ear and she like pushes it back. And it's like yeah. So it's just yeah. But in the show, she just like sees the ear. She immediately just disses the thing. And then there's a whole conversation between Ellie and David. Really cool scene. Because like he's trying to figure out who she is still. Like he doesn't know her name because he asked her earlier. She ends up like biting him and trying to get the keys from his wrist. And then he's like, oh, you like stupid bitch. And then she's like, Ellie. And he's like, what? She's like, tell them Ellie's the one who chewed off your fucking hand or who's gonna fucking kill you or something like that. It's just so fucking good. Yeah. And he's like, what did you say earlier? Chopped into little pieces. It's just thank you God for writers and all they bring joy to me. But yeah, it's just a little scene of David basically saying, I'm gonna fucking kill you and eat you now. Even though before he went to, I don't know, assimilate her into his fucking
He's gonna rape her.
Yes, that is
because as we've established,
he's
he
a
is
rapist.
a killer, murderer, rapist.
Preacher. So yeah,
What's the difference?
so in the game it cuts back to Joel kind of like after this, and Joel's like going through like this blizzard trying to find her because it's like snowing hard now. And he's like stumbling across more and more of these like survivors, more of David's people because he's tracking the trail. It's just a really cool scene. Like I said, it's more action for the games because you have to have something. So it's just coming between Joel and Ellie. Goes back to Ellie, and Ellie does escape eventually. And then David finds out, and this whole scene with like this diner happens, and the diner catching on fire, or I guess like a restaurant, not like a diner, but there's a restaurant catches on fire while David's trying to find Ellie. He ends up finding her, and he gets on top of her, and like it's insinuated that he's going to rape her. In the show, it's so, like he's like I don't know what he says, but it's some off the wall shit. It's like let's just say he's like, I'm gonna make you mine, and I was just like, bro, what? But she ends up grabbing a machete and like hacking into him, and it's like really brutal. Like, yeah, it is like some really brutal shit. And like Ellie's just like like wits, and she's like out of her mind because like obviously that's very traumatic. So she's like, yeah, she's just stabbing him, or not stabbing him, but hacking into his face with the machete. And then Joel comes in, like she leaves the the restaurant. And she's like crying, bawling her eyes out, and like Joel grabs her and she's about to swing on him, and he's like, no, like Ellie is me, and then that's kind of like the end of the episode, and it's just a well crafted episode, just really dark, really unsettling. Yeah, it's just
It's the opposite end of the spectrum of my favorite episode.
yeah. Yeah. Also,
Dregs of humanity versus the paragon of humanity.
in the game, she's hacking into his face and she's still going, and Joel runs up and grabs her like, Ellie. So he's like watching her hack into this guy's face, and he just grabs her like, Ellie, like, calm down. He's like, I got you, like, no, don't worry. And it cuts to black, and it does the because that was winter, so I think it does spring, and it cuts to like the next thing. Whereas in the show, she walks out, and then he grabs her, and then it cut. That's the end of the episode. But yeah, it just says a lot about both the characters. I think. I don't know. It's just traumatic, and I like the episode. I like the whole David thing, and yeah, it's just crafted. It's one of my favorite scenes in the game too to play through. Also because you play as Ellie, and you definitely feel the difference between playing as a little girl and playing as Joel, who's this man who can just swing on people, and you can just click square. You're like, yeah, square is like the win button. But when you're playing Ellie, you try to swing. She has this like little the little knife that she has. She just takes a swipe, and then like the guy like grabs her hand, just fucking knocks you out. Like, yeah. So you have to play like very more strategic with Ellie. Whereas with Joel, you can play strategic as Joel too, because the AI still fucking dodge your moves, so you're not fucking invincible. But yeah, I just think it's really cool for the game, and then in the show, obviously, it's just cool to see Ellie be on her own for a little bit. So yeah. Now we're at the last episode, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So the last episode, they finally get to their destination.
Saltaleka City.
Yeah, they get to the destination, and by this time they have created a pretty good bond. This is the episode that me and Riley watched together, so
Yep. About 2.5 hours ago.
Yeah, god damn, we're 2.5. Damn, I do a lot of talking. It's because I love this shit so much.
I figured this would be a long one.
Yeah. But basically, yeah, they get to where they need to go, and there's a lot of like Joel kind of like he's like very much in a better mood now, like just about the situation. He's grown to like really love Ellie. So as they're like traversing through this city that's like very derelict city, they're having like small conversations. Now this is something that's very different from the game that I kind of like. Is Joel talking about like he has this marking on his face of when a guy shot at him and missed, and Ellie brings this up like, oh, is that like it's just kind of like reminiscent of that place where you got shot and the guy missed, and he's like, yeah, well, the guy who shot and missed was me. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, this is what they're doing.
Didn't that happen earlier in the show?
What?
I thought they had that conversation early in the show.
So I didn't know. Because she brings it up as if they did bring it back up in the show. So I don't. I agree with you. I'm pretty sure it probably brought up in the show. I just don't remember it. I don't remember what episode. I don't remember. Yeah. So
I remember like an early episode talking about where she asked him about Scar, and they have that kind of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I could be wrong.
So
because I'm fallible.
Yeah, and Joel just goes deeper into it by saying it was him that was going to shoot, but he got basically scared and he like misfired.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'd have to watch again to see.
Yeah, he just talks about how like basically it almost felt like a sign for him to keep going. Right. And in the game is a little different. They do go through this like little quarantine zone or like old quarantine zone, and Ellie actually goes up to Joel and is like, hey, I found this and I thought you might want this. I took it from what's his brother's name?
Tommy.
Yeah, I took it from Tommy's compound, and when she hands it to him, it's a picture of Joel and Sarah, and he is holding Sarah on his shoulders because she just won a soccer game. So yeah, and then he's just kind of like, thank you, and it's kind of like a somber moment, and they just kind of like, she's like, how was she? And then he starts talking about how she was, whatever. And I think both of them are really good like character dives, and just playing off of Joel and his affection towards Ellie. But yeah, so yeah, they talk more. And then they go into. Oh no! It's in the show. Sorry, they get captured by the Fireflies because they didn't know that Joel and Ellie are, the people they need to meet. And this is where Marlene finally comes back into the story because she's been gone for so long. We probably thought she was dead, but no.
What are you talking about? She was in the
up.
cold open, which we didn't talk about.
Sorry, what?
She was in cold open with Ashley Johnson.
Ha! Yes! Sorry, it's just like, yeah, I keep comparing it to the game, so maybe that's why I skip over it, but yes, I forgot. Right, you could take the cold opening.
It was good.
Yeah.
I think it helps if you know like who Ashley Johnson is and you recognize her as like the original, but I mean, even without it, I think it's probably a good cold open as like a bookend for the first season.
Yeah, Ashley Johnson's in it, and Ashley Johnson is the voice of Ellie in the games. So it's really weird hearing Ellie have a baby, basically, because I'm like, this is weird, but yeah, it's still fine. It was good acting. But yeah, Marlene's in that cold opening, so you do know she's in the episode, but you're just like, she's back. I thought that woman was dead because the last time we saw her, she was injured. So yeah, so Marlene.
That's every fan, yeah.
Marlene's talking to Joel, and she's basically like, sorry my guys knocked you out, but also your girl's in surgery. He's like, wait, what? Hold on, I woke up and you're telling me she's in surgery? And she's like, yeah, we found out that
dad mode activated.
We found out that we can use to take the cordyceps out of her brain and form like a antidote to like the fungal infection or whatever. And Joel's like, yeah, that's cool, but like cordyceps grow in the brain, so like how are you gonna I just need to know like the details about this. Like how are you gonna like separate the cordyceps from her brain and keep her alive? And then Marlene's like, yeah, nah, bro, we're not keeping her alive. What you thought this was? So yeah, that sends Joel into beast mode, and Joel's like, oh, I'm gonna get my newfound daughter out of here alive, whether you like that or not, kinda. So Marlene's like, yeah, okay, buddy, you don't even have any weapons. You in what army? So she sends Joel on his merry way with a knife and a couple of her guys, and tells them, why would you do that? She tells him, tells her men to drop him off on like a highway with nothing but this knife.
What you should do is build a trebuchet on the roof of the hospital, launch the knife out to the highway, and then tell Joel, the knife is out there, go get it, and then don't come back.
Joel is such a monster that he probably would just telekinetically grab it out the sky. One thing,
he would just will a knife into existence.
One thing that I like joke about, but like low key I'm serious, but like I don't care. In the game, in the show, they nerf Joel a lot, obviously, because he's a fucking human. He's not fucking a god. He's still pretty crazy in the show. Especially
I was
in the
gonna say it's
in the,
not apparent.
In the last episode, he's fucking like it's crazy
like
how
Terminator.
Yeah, he's Terminator, and I think it's a little weird. It's a little weird when you had the whole conversation with Tommy, like him being old, right? And like, let's say that was a part of, and also the lack of hearing. Like, he is an old man in this show, so I think they really play into him being an old man. Whereas in the games, he's old, but he's like,
Chris.
Well, like he's a fucking man of a man. So
Chris, dad mode cares not about your age.
You're right. My bad. Sorry, dad mode.
It's just woman lifting a car to save her children.
Okay.
Territory.
All right, my bad.
This is man committing a fucking act of terrorism.
He literally was the Terminator because all he saw was red. I got you. So yeah, Joel ends up like they walk him down these steps, and he ends up like turning on those guys holding weapons to him. And he proceeds to fuck everyone in the hospital. No Vaseline. He fucks every one of them with no Vaseline. Sorry, I gotta repeat it because Joel is a monster and he rips through everyone in this hospital to get to Ellie. And he does get to Ellie.
And it's it's so well made. It's so effective. I love how everything is just so muted in that this is just like it's almost like an out of body experience
Yeah.
where it's just like, oh my god, and the music that's playing, like the corruption of the fucking opening theme, oh my god, it's great in making you feel like this guy is fucking scary. Like this guy is such a scary person.
Yeah, like
I would not want to be around this person.
it's a cool scene, especially because it cuts a lot. Like it's a lot of cutting because Joel is just going through people. But there's a scene where the guy's on the ground. He's like, nah, no, and Joel just goes up and stabs him, and it's like, whoa, what the fuck? Joel's going crazy. But yeah, he ends up getting to the surgery room. He tells the people to like let her go. The doctor or the surgeon, the head surgeon, I assume, walks up and is like no, like please don't do this. Joel ends up shooting him, and he proceeds to grab Ellie, and then he leaves. As he's leaving, he comes up across Marlene. I can't get that wording right. He meets Marlene. Marlene's like, Joel, you can't protect her forever. Eventually, something has to give. So I think the best thing is to keep her here so we can make an antidote. You know that's what she would have wanted.
Everyone's dead. I don't know what you're not gonna.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, your surgeon is dead. Like I don't think you're finding any other surgeon, right? So Joel's like, no, you'll just. Oh, sorry. I think I skipped ahead. So Joel thinks about it and he's like, okay. And then it cuts to him in the car. He's driving away like fuck. And then you hear a little sound in the back of his seat, and it's Ellie. And she's like, oh, where am I? He's like, you're with me. We left the Firefly compound. And it cuts back to him and Marlene, and he ends up shooting Marlene. And then he puts Ellie into the car, and then Marlene's like, please, like, don't do this. And he's like, she's like, we can like basically change this. And he's like, no, you'll just come for her. And then he shoots Marlene, and she dies. And then Joel ends up taking Ellie all the way back to Tommy's compound because now they're gonna live happily ever after together. Yeah. No, Ellie still feels weird about the whole situation because Joel told her that like basically attack happened on the Firefly compound and he barely got away with her. So there was nothing they could do. It just didn't work out with all the tests and stuff they were running on her. So
she's like, yo, you're full of shit.
Yeah, she's like, you're full of shit.
She doesn't say it out loud.
Yeah, and she's like, Joel, tell me that everything you said about the Fireflies right now is true. Like, tell me that. And
yeah,
Joel says, it is. And he lies right to her face, and
he promised.
She ends up kind of just sitting there with it, and then the show ends. That's the end of the first season. That's the end of the games also. It ends the same exact way. Nothing changes.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
In the game, what's cool is there's a scene the scene after they meet Bill, there's Ellie's holding like a magazine that's kind of funny or whatever, but she has a comic book and she gives it to Joel. In the game, I don't think it happens in the show. She gives the comic book to Joel. Joel looks at it, and there's a scene of a woman on the ground in the comic book, and she has it's a little comic, like a little panel, and she's on the ground like reaching out, and like the bubble says like please don't or something like that, and then Ellie's like, but here's the thing. She's like flapping it in Joel's face, and she's like, she's like, I love these comics, but I just like it ends right here. I hope it gets a sequel, and it's supposed to like be a joke on like them like foreshadowing what happens at the end because it's literally the same exact pose, and also is the I hope it gets a sequel type of thing because they didn't know if Last of Us was going to do well or not. But yeah, I just thought that was a really funny joke that I don't think it would have came across the same in the show, so I'm glad it kind of omitted it. But it's funny if you play the games because you're like, I get it, and also you probably wouldn't remember it because by this time you play the game for hours. So, but yeah, that's kind of cool, a little detail. with this last episode, and just like in the show in general, for me personally, since we're at the end, we can like talk about like it as a whole, kind of the back end of this podcast. I like the show. I think there's things that obviously I wanted more in terms of like zombies and action and things like that, but that's whatever. I think the part of me that is weird about the show is they talk about a lot of like Joel in his past and maybe like being this bad guy for what he's done in his past. And we get all the way to this last episode where you're like, yeah, nah, this is a bad guy. Like, he murdered a lot of people for one girl. He made this selfish ass decision to keep her alive, right? So let me ask
But at the
this before I
same
go.
time, you can't. But all right, what were you?
So no, go ahead, Riley. I want to see like what was your opinion on Joel before I talk.
Okay, well, all right, well, okay, fine. Let's pack it in. Yeah, beyond like just the acting and the writing, like he's really well written, but it like my opinion on him as a character in the show is that yeah, he is a person who we don't know what happened between episode 1 and where we flash forward to. We don't know, and all we can do is infer. And based on everything we see, especially by the end of the last episode, you could tell he did terrible things, and he basically became a product of the world he lived in.
Right.
And I think that mixes really interestingly with his new relationship, in that you see he makes this decision in this final episode.
Right.
That decision is built around not only his past with his daughter and his new relationship with Ellie, but also it's baked into the terrible person he was in the in-between, right?
Okay.
And you could say it's a selfish decision he does, where he's murdering people,
right,
and all that. But you also have to look at it through the lens of he's basically doing it all to save his daughter, right? Yeah. So I can't say it's fully selfish. It's definitely a terrible thing to
do. And I wasn't saying he was selfish, because I do say on the end of like it's a terrible thing. I don't think it's fully selfish, but there is some obviously selfish nature in it, obviously.
Everyone's in the wrong in the end, because you also have to look at it from the other side, where these people are like sacrificing a girl against her will.
Yeah.
But they're doing it to save the world. But you also have to think about, is that really a guaranteed thing? You know?
Yeah, okay. So I was going to get into that, because why I was saying like him being selfish or whatever, because like there's a discourse of people who actually said like Joel is 100% bad dude, and like the ending solidifies that he's a bad guy, and also like his act of like this is being selfish, you know what I mean? But I don't like subscribing to that idea. But okay, so in the game, that's what I should name the title of this like in the game.
Yeah, that'll be that one.
Yeah, so in the game, like I think like there's a lot of like playing through this game, you're kind of like on Joel's side majority of the game, right? Like you're like, since I'm playing as him, of course you're gonna be more attached to him because it's the main character. But what makes you attached is the story elements, the story beats, these characters that interact with Joel. And you have these characters like Bill or Sam and Henry, where Joel interaction with them is very much like I can deal with humans. I don't kill unless I really am in a war. I have to survive. His whole thing is survival. This is why the whole thing with Bill kind of comes into play of Joel is a survivor at the end of the day. He is surviving. So every character in this story is doing the same thing. But like these characters have a sort of humanity to them because they attach themselves to something else. Whether that's Frank, whether that's Sam, whether that's, whatever the case may be. Whether it's Marlene saying I want an antidote, like because that is attaching herself to a bigger picture, So I like that a lot. In terms of like the ending and like Joel's selfish decision and what that means in the games, if you're a gamer and you want to pick up all the things, you look at all the notes, there's also tape recordings during the university scene. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's me.
Oh yeah. Okay, so there's like tape recordings, there's things, and they talk, they go into depth about them already finding people with the same thing as Ellie, and they've already tried this numerous times, but it just didn't work out. So when you get to the end,
puts a different spin on it, doesn't
it? When you get to the end, and Joel is like, "No, like I don't want to." Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I just want to take her. It's because in his mind, he's like, why would I give this newly found daughter to me to something that probably won't work?
Yeah.
But
so in the show, they kind of bring that up, and him basically doing that as a lie, because he wouldn't, like, there's no concept that he would know that's a thing in the show.
Right.
So he's basically saying that as, yeah, they had all these things and it didn't work for anyone, so we decided not to risk it, right?
Right.
But in the show, that's framed as him lying so that she doesn't find out what he did.
So the thing is, though, in the game, he's still lying, because it just like it might not work, it can work also. You see what I'm saying? So it's purely like, what choice do you make as a dad, as a survivor, as a person who wants to better the world or destroy the world? So Joel's has the fate of the world in his hand, in a sense, you know what I mean? So it is still a selfish decision, but it's backed by a lot of facts, a lot of like evidence, a lot of like
by emotion more than anything.
Exactly. But I think why I like the game, because it leaves you with like, Joel isn't a bad person, but he's not a good person either. It's very gray, and that's what I like. That's why I love that story so much, because oh my god, I just accidentally opened Steam by being so passionate. It very much
trying to fucking pre-order the game
instantly. It very much gives the idea of like, there's grayness in this whole story. The whole story is about whose side are you on, really? You know what I mean? You're following these two characters, but everyone is just trying to survive, and Joel is trying to survive the whole game until this very last decision isn't about survival anymore. It's about him being a human, him saying, I choose love over surviving. You see what I'm saying?
And murder.
Okay, and murder. But I choose to love this individual and grow up with them and have a future with them, rather than choosing to save the world, because that is the survival part of this all. And that's why I love the story. That's why I love the show, and I love what it does. I think it still gets the same message across, because what Riley just said to me, clearly Riley gets it. So, I think they still tell the same story. I think I just like the game more because there's a little bit more context with a lot of certain things, and just obviously pacing and whatever.
There's a lot more content.
Yeah, there's a lot more content. So of course you're gonna like it. It's just like if you were to watch Game of Thrones and only watch the first season, like you're like, oh, that's fine. But if you watch the whole show, there's context for everything.
Game of Thrones to A Song of Ice and Fire, there's a lot more building there.
Yeah, so of course I think I have my opinion, but I like the show, and I think I stepped away with it being very satisfied, and I'm okay with that, because I anything to get more and new people into the story of these characters that I love so dearly. So yeah, that's like kind of my whole synopsis of the whole thing. Is just very good show. I definitely say give it a watch if you haven't. I'm pretty sure most people have seen it by now. There's a lot of people that I talk to.
Oh yeah, it's eclipsed Hot D in terms of viewership, which already was pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely. Yeah, I definitely.
Dude, the wildest thing about this show, dude, is that the viewership on it went up over time. Where like
what?
More people watched the second episode than the first episode. More people watched the third episode than the second episode. It did dip down a bit, but I think like episode 8 reached a new peak, and then the finale hit the peak of viewership, and that like never happened.
Jeez Louise, dude! Like
that is unheard of. It's for almost every show in existence. It's always the premiere is the peak of viewership, and then it goes down from there, like significant drop from there, right. And then it's pretty steady for the rest, because people who get to the second are probably gonna carry it out from there. But this one went up.
Yeah, that's crazy. We also talked about that in Hot D, right? There was something about like the viewership went up a little bit, like too.
It went up. I think it went from first to second. It went up with Hot D as well.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm glad though. Like I said, anything to have more people into the story and have people talking about Last of Us. Now, do I agree with all the shit they're doing with the games and shit? No, not really, but it's okay. Yeah, but
Let's play both games, then we'll have a discourse about how we feel about the second one, because I feel like that's the controversial.
That dude, the second one is so weird to me. Like, I have no real set ground on that one like I do the first one. The first one, I'm like, good game, loved everything about it, 10 out of 10, right? Second game, I'm like, good game, tomorrow, bad game, the day after that, great game. It's just like, there's really cool things they do with it. I love the gameplay. I love some of the story beats, but I also don't like some of the story beats. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's very interesting. A couple more things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to bring up one more thing with the show. Oh, I would have liked at least an episode with just Joel and Ellie. Like, a little bit more. Maybe just one more episode. Because, like I said, you get humans or interaction with humans every single episode. So it's just like, I would just like a purely Joel and Ellie. You know, can these two characters hold a episode by themselves?
Fair.
And I feel like we didn't get that. And that's,
I think it definitely could, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think they definitely could too. So you know, but yeah, and you know, when you go through hours of the gameplay in the game, and these characters are talking and shooting the shit, yeah, of course I'm going to be like, oh, can I just get an episode with those two? But like, yeah, it's fine.
So I was shocked by how the last episode ended, and then you told me that that's how the game ended, and that shocked me even more because I was shocked that that's how the episode ended, because that is not how I pictured the game ending at all. Because I have no frame of reference for this.
Yeah.
I just like assumed that Joel was gonna die by the end of the game and the show.
Interesting.
Because I don't think, like, I've heard people, like, isn't the complaint about the second game is that you don't like that Joel isn't in it? Isn't that like a complaint?
Yeah.
And you don't have to spoil that because someday I'll get around to that. But I was just like, all right, so in the finale, Joel's gonna die because that's probably what happened in the game too. And it's like that doesn't happen. It's like, wow, okay, that's fucking. Didn't expect that. You subverted my expectations.
Yeah, no, that's definitely how I ended. And like, I think I was, what was I? I had to be like 15 when the game released, and I played this game like 3 days straight at my grandmother's house. I remember where I was. I remember when I beat it. I remember like what TV I played it on.
Yeah.
And the ending came, and we didn't talk about it, but shout out to Gustavo. I don't know his last name, but the composer for The Last of Us, because they kept the same composer. They just transferred like a lot of the sounds and music from the games to the show. But at the very end, when Ellie's like, tell me, you know, everything that you say, there's this like this, I don't know, he has this instrument, it's like a banjo or something like that, like this guitar thing, but in this scene, I don't know what instrument it is, but it's like this like, and it's like slowly rising as they're talking, and then right when she's like, tell me like it's true, and he goes, it is, and she sits there, and the sound reaches its peak, and then she finally just goes, okay, and it cuts to black. That floored me as a kid, like, because it goes right into like the rest of the song. Yeah, it's a good ending. I was just like, I had to sit with my emotions, like
thematically, I really like that as an ending. It's better than what I expected it to be.
And like, imagine seeing that and not expecting a sequel, because I wasn't expecting a sequel. I didn't need a sequel. Everything I wanted, everything I needed was right there, like perfectly wrapped with a bow. It leaves you on this somewhat like, okay, well, where does these characters go? Like, yeah, it feels me empty. Like. And it's very much, like I said, it's a great ending. It's not good, it's not bad. Just like the characters, not good, not bad. It's just it just exists.
It is.
It is. Thank you. And I just feel like it's so great. And maybe that's why The Last of Us Part 2 makes me feel a little differently. Just because it is anymore. It is definitely something. You know what I mean? Right. And I won't get into that until the second season come out and or Riley plays the second game. But yeah, so overall, great game. Go play it. Great show. Go watch it. For me, I'm obsessed with it. I love Last of Us, dude. Like, yeah. Riley?
Yeah. Well, okay. Look, as someone who didn't play the game extensively enough to form an opinion beyond. Anyway,
Yeah.
Nah, I thoroughly enjoyed the show. I don't have any really meaningful complaints about it. I was absolutely gobsmacked, and I'm really happy that. Sorry. It really gives me a lot of hope because now we have over these last 2-3 years now.
Yeah.
We've now have 2 absolutely impeccable video game adaptation series that we have under our belt. We've done podcasts about both of them now.
Yep.
And it makes me really happy for the future. But just the show as a whole, no, I say I don't have any meaningful complaint. I could nitpick little things here and there, but as a whole, no. I looking back, it's just really solid. And it just goes to show, when you put a lot of care into it, and when you get the people who were originally responsible, and they still have the passion to actually build and expand on what they previously done, you can get something that's really, really great, and something that anyone can sit down and watch. It doesn't have to be, it's something that anyone can engage with. And of course, going back to what I said all the way at the start, closing on 3 hours ago,
crazy.
It is made a lot easier when the game was very much made to emulate, this level of prestige television.
Yeah.
And now we're coming back into that,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't, it's one of those things I don't have a lot really to talk more about because I just think it's really solid.
Yeah, I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like I said, I can not want anything more than just people liking and experiencing things for the first time, especially when I've experienced those things and I like those things, and it's just more people get to know about it. That's what else could I ask for?
They are fucking evil geniuses fucking releasing the game on fucking PC on Steam right as the show's ending. That is such a fucking evil genius marketing tactic.
I hate them so much. I love them and hate them so much.
Because I'm fucking picking that shit up.
Yeah. I made an argument, I always talk about how why does Last of Us Part 1 exist? Why should it exist? Because there's really no reason for it to do so. But obviously I didn't, because they announced the Part 1 before they announced the show, I believe, or something like that. So it was kind of okay, but why do I need this other than it coming to PC? Because I thought that was always a plus, it coming to PC, more people, of course. But I'm but why remake this game completely when you have a remastered version of this game already? So you don't really need to re-release it. But I've been seeing some of the gameplay and stuff. Obviously it looks really good, but they also all of the game mechanics and stuff from Part 2 is put into Part 1, which is really phenomenal, because Part 2 in terms of gameplay is a complete overhaul. There's a lot of different mechanics that are a lot better that the first one just didn't flesh out.
That's kind of cool.
So that's really cool. And sorry, I was gonna say something else. Oh, and I mean, like I said, visually it just looks good. So why not? Why not get new people to play it and then have them have a better experience overall in terms of controls, in terms of visuals, in terms of I said that one for you.
Well.
Yeah. Yeah. Just why not? So at first I was I don't need this. We don't need this. But that was just me being a stinker in the mud. I still don't think we need it, but it's okay because it's a better experience for everyone. So, that's it.
I'm glad we got to do something really personal for you.
Oh my god, that makes me so happy. We got it out the way. Now we gotta do some more stuff.
I think it was a good way of doing it too.
Yeah, this is a fucking long episode. I didn't think it was gonna be this long. I knew it would be long. Goddamn. I guess the one last thing, because I always end it with a question. Riley, you're in the apocalypse, right? And you're a doomsday prepper. What traps are you setting and why?
What kind of apocalypse is this?
It's this apocalypse.
Okay.
You have to deal with clickers, bloaters.
Okay. Okay, so you dig a hole, right? Dig a pretty deep hole
Okay.
outside the fence, obviously. And I want to hook up some kind of device on a timer that will ring a bell every minute or so,
Okay.
just so I could draw in these clickers in to
Okay.
fall into the hole, right?
Okay.
And then every fucking, week or so, I go in, change the battery out on it, and then I just drop oil in, drop a match in there to burn it all out,
Okay.
and then I can just reset from there. So that'd be one I would do.
Okay.
That takes care of them.
That's one down. You got two more.
Or what? The regular
There's-
infected and the bloaters?
Huh?
Is that what you're
No,
talking
no.
about?
It's just for any infected, but just keep in mind that you also have bloaters. You also have clickers.
Okay,
You have
well, I
regular
could
infected.
deal with bloaters. Bloaters are pretty easy.
Oh, really now? Because they ripped that guy's face open. So
Bloaters are really easy. All right,
okay.
catch this.
Yeah.
I set up a tripwire trap, right?
Yes.
Where when the tripwire is tripped, a big fuck off axe comes down from the trees.
Where are you getting this big fuck off axe?
From
Are you,
the hardware store? I don't know.
The hardware store just has a big. It's like in the back of a corner, and it literally
It's a
just says
big
big
pendulum.
fuck off.
Yeah, it's a big pendulum axe that swings down.
Big fuck
And then
off.
for the regular ones, it's the same thing. It's a tripwire, but instead it launches a bunch of fucking punch daggers out.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Yeah. I'm
I
going
like
with.
tripwire into blade. That's a good setup.
So now you have a combo set up for your doomsday prepping. I'm going with an electric fence, and then like if they touch the electric fence and they get electrocuted, it pulls out like these water guns from the side, and it like shoots water on them, so they just get more electrocuted, right? I think that's a good one. I like your pit idea. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take the pit idea.
Okay, all right.
But I'm
workshop that
I'm
one.
gonna have like these things that automatically like have a heating metal like pad at the bottom. So once they land, it's like super hot and just explode on impact once they fall into the hole.
Okay.
I think that's how that works, right? And then lastly, I think I'm just gonna have like human sacrifices in like a cage. So this is for like the hunters. If I catch hunters, I'm just gonna put them in a cage and then like set them in the middle and just have a bunch of clickers like get drawn to one area, and I'm gonna strap those guys to like a bomb like on the inside. Like all they have is grenade in there, so they can pull the pin or not, or they can get eaten by the zombies. And that's my trap. So yeah, here we go. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's a good one.
That went to dark places.
No,
really
it didn't. No, it did. So you're telling me there's no hunters gonna? Even Bill had hunters.
I think you've become the fucking psycho.
How? Because I said like
The
people are
apocalypse.
encroaching on my stuff, and I don't want to die, so I put them in a cage.
You're pretty fucking far.
They get to survive. Maybe they can chuck the grenade outside the thing.
All right.
Yeah, like, they survive.
All right. Oh fuck.
That's the end of episode
Nice.
4 of Up
Whew.
and After podcast. It's a long one. It's a doozy, and I am very much passionate about it, and it was great.
Man.
Yeah.
What a hell of a time. We have any ideas for what's next?
I still want to do a Star Wars trilogy. We watched the first one. I do
Yeah, we
wanna
gotta
watch
get
the second
together
one
to
and
do
third
that.
one, and then we review that, and then maybe come back to it with the prequels, and then come back to it again with the sequels.
Let's do it.
But yeah, I definitely want to watch 2 and 3 because I do like the first one. We'll see if I continue to like it. Yeah, that's it. I think that's
I still have my Marvel rankings.
that's gonna be fun.
You won't be able to guess what's in last place.
Wait. So also, have you seen Ant-Man yet?
Nope.
Nope. You gonna wait till it comes to Disney Plus?
Probably.
Okay. Excuse me. Is Phase 4 gonna be a part of it?
Of the rankings?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
Ant-Man's not part of Phase 4.
Yeah. No, I was just asking. Was all right? Okay. Now I'm curious. What's at your bottom?
Yep.
You gonna give me any hints?
Nope.
God damn it. Okay. All right.
That'd be the pod.
All right. We'll sign off then.
All right.
I am Modern Day Age everywhere. You can catch me on Twitter at Modern Day Age with 2 E's. YouTube Modern Day Age 1 E, and everywhere else Modern Day Age 1 E. Riley.
You may be watching this on YouTube.com. Wisolation is the channel name. I also have Twitch, Wisolation. And that's all I do. I don't do other social medias. I'm on Reddit, but you don't need to find me on Reddit. Yeah, I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on Twitter. But you can find me at Wisolation on YouTube because that's where I'm mainly
That's
at.
where you need to be, actually, on YouTube. Watching.
You should. It's a good place. Right now I'm still playing fucking Here's the Storm like a jerk. And me and Max and Alex is still doing Final Fantasy 2, which is kind of fun. I don't know if I have any other ongoing. Oh, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Progression series. It's a good one. It's definitely not a ripoff of a more popular series. It's totally original and unique in every way, and it's really good. It's getting heated. I'm still about a year behind on editing those, but hey, we're catching up slowly but surely.
Hey, it's the process.
Yeah, but beyond that, I got other projects in the pipeline. I'm doing some writing, some editing, and someday I'll put something out that I haven't just scrapped entirely after several hours of work, and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. After some thought, I don't think I'm going to record. Like, if I play The Last of Us, I don't think I'm going to record it.
Oh, are you going to?
I was thinking about it.
Interesting, because I would definitely like to see your reactions. I feel like live, but...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it would be very interesting.
Okay.
But I'm thinking of doing something. If some game comes out, I definitely want to actually like record it instead of just playing it. But I don't know what that's gonna be. Maybe Kingdom Hearts 4 when that comes out.
So 2056, yeah.
It might come out next year. You don't know.
I think I know.
Yeah.
Never
anyway,
heard single shit.
Fucking Dive to the Heart. That's our new podcast, me and Max.
Okay.
We're doing Dive to the Heart, a Kingdom Hearts podcast where we talk about Kingdom Hearts.
You're fucking lying. There's no way.
Now the first episode's out on YouTube right now. It came out like a week ago. We talk about our predictions for Kingdom Hearts 4.
Interesting. I definitely gotta watch that.
Yeah, we're gonna be recording another episode sometime soon.
Nice.
Don't know the topic yet, but it'll be out.
Okay, bet.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I got nothing else, but...
Awesome.
See you later, guys.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.